Cowboy.
Episode 25 here, and even before the show starts, we've already lost it because of one of our guests there.
Are you thirsty? I almost saw you swallow.
I almost didn't swallow.
What's the topic today?
Today's topic:
exterminate
soundtracks.
Exterminate soundtracks now. Destroy, kill, maim.
Oh man, we've already lost it.
Yes.
Yep. Did you ever actually have it?
No.
That's what she said. That's what she said. Okay.
Well, welcome to episode 25, which we're going to be covering movie soundtracks. But on the sideline, we were talking about how much soundtracks play a role in TV. So I think we'll touch a bit on some TV shows that have some great soundtracks. So we'll go around and everybody introduce themselves. Everybody already knows Willow Skylor, our Canadian co-host.
Hello.
And then we got Christian Basil. Wow. I can't believe he left the TARDIS to join us.
He brought the TARDIS with him. What are you talking about?
I was going to say.
It's a nice shower curtain. And the shower's behind it.
And then we're joined by Rose and Jerome, who've been on multiple times already.
Yes, we regularly do Saturday morning cartoons on the HWWS family.
Mm-hmm.
And we're glutton for punishment.
We couldn't find better guests, so we invited other guests.
Oh my God!
And the villain is fired.
Putting us on the bottom of the dollar bin at the Walmart store. Thank you. I was gonna have a big ego. That's gone. Thanks.
Well, it's the, we just use the talent we've got. We don't have to pay anybody.
God.
Anyway.
Well, that's it. That was a great episode. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, let's go. Wow.
Next time. Okay.
So when discussing soundtracks, people sometimes do get confused on the difference between a score and a soundtrack. So we'll start with you, Willow. Do you know the difference between a score and a soundtrack?
Well, the score is like the main theme of the movies, and like them. Usually they're like more instrumental. The soundtracks are like songs specifically set in place for certain scenes. That's the way I understand it.
I think that's
pretty much sums it up.
Yeah, that pretty much sums it up. Yeah, I still, I've had people say, "Oh, you're gonna do soundtracks," and I was like, "Yeah," and they're like, "Well, what's your favorite?" Like, they're like, "Lord of the Rings." I'm like, "That's a score."
Yeah,
that's next week's episode.
We're not talking about score, meaning pillow talk tonight. Later, not that kind of score, right?
Okay,
we just want clarification there.
It's a working title. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we've really lost the show early on.
So, is there a particular soundtrack that stands out most? And I'll start with you, Christian.
I'm going to talk about TV first.
We'll get to that.
Well, we just saying it. We start with it this way, and then I can't follow. Like if you say we're going to do something, we have to say.
I say we'll talk about some
we'll
TV.
Get to it.
Yeah, we'll get to it.
Wait, I thought we were doing that now. I'm so confused.
And if you're just joining us, welcome to the 25th episode of Reels and Heels. This is Nicole and Brian. We're really professional today.
Is there a specific soundtrack that like you would consider that sticks out on that you would have on your playlist? Christian?
Damn you.
I
I had to Google. I actually had to Google while Willow was looking it up what the difference between a score and a soundtrack were. Do I have music? Yeah. Well, I'm biased. I'm like, but I'm going to say the score. I would have the Doctor Who soundtrack, and I'm referring to Murray Gold's time on Doctor Who from Eccleston all the way up till Peter Capaldi, which I arguably say that if any Whovian in their right mind who's seen the new reboot from Eccleston on loves that soundtrack, because I think it is something not only that dignifies each story, there's actually music for each and every episode. Not only that, but for every character, every event, every moment. But if it's something like if you were walking around a convention and a Murray song goal was coming on, the Whovians would go like, "Oh, that was episode so-and-so, and that took place at so-and-so." I mean, like literally to the T. That's, I think, how spoiled we are with Murray Gold and his music. It's just that fine-tuned, that signifies and coins the Doctor.
Well, what about you?
Okay. For me, my favorite soundtrack. Oh wow. You know what?
Now we're talking about TV, right?
There were some really good ones. I apologize. My cat is puking.
Best soundtrack in the world. Every time a cat pukes, everybody pays attention.
They always do it at the worst moment.
Would that be Hairball, the musical?
Yeah. Apparently, he wants to say that Cats has the best soundtrack. I'm going to disagree with him.
Now, we're talking about your cat vomiting and not the movie that came out just a couple of years ago, right? Which is also vomit.
This is why I don't have a cat.
Someone else talk.
All right, we'll go down to you. What about you, Rose? Is there something that like really stands out? It doesn't have to be your favorite, but something that really pops up in your head.
Are we talking TV or movies?
Just soundtracks in general.
Kill Bill Volume 1.
Yes.
Good choice.
Ooh.
I
mean, you have that hoo 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 that they ended up co-opting for a whole commercial.
Yeah.
I do have to say Quentin does a good job at choosing certain songs for his movies.
You know, he has songs that fit the moment in his film just so perfectly. And Kill Bill Volume 1 and Pulp Fiction both are really good at that.
Yeah, Ian, I would say Reservoir Dogs is another one.
Oh my God, yes. But the Death Proof soundtrack, I bought the CD after I watched the movie because I absolutely loved the music. And there's like stuff in there that you never heard before, or for me anyway. Apparently there was a band in the 60s that was really popular, and I'm just like, I don't remember hearing this particular song. But yeah, there's just the whole movie, for me anyway, Death Proof is one of my favorite action films.
I mean, that's a good one. I mean, I think that was Kurt Russell's first movie back in a long time.
Yeah.
What about you, Jerome? Is there a soundtrack, either in film or TV, that stands out to you?
All right. Well, I go further back than some of you guys because I'm a lot older. So, as I was showing earlier before the show, Miami Vice really hit it in the 80s. Okay, you heard that opening thump for the theme song, and you know what you're getting. And they did tons of music, of modern music, of pop songs and all that. But the one that I really listened to a lot was one that the movie didn't get a lot of play, but the music was really good, and that was Eddie.
That's a great movie.
Eddie and the Cruisers.
Yeah.
That was the Beaver Brown Band, and the songs and everything on that were just dynamite to fit the moods exactly. Now, I mean, I could go with another one. Greg is really harping on this. Prince, Purple Rain. You know, like I said, I came with props.
Do you have a lot of vinyl soundtracks?
Oh yeah, I'm an '80s boy, '80s and '70s. Here's one that I think a lot of people forgot was a soundtrack, but was really good.
Oh,
Okay.
Woodstock. Oh wow.
Yeah, that's an album and a half. I mean, this is like 6 albums of soundtrack that you really want to spend some quality time with. Okay. But I mean, I've got even more that goes on, and wait till next week when I should bring up the scores that I have.
Oh my God, you, my dad would love Hair and Jesus Christ Superstar.
Hair was okay. I didn't care for Hair, but Jesus Christ Superstar had some dynamite music.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I really love Hair. I love the music in Hair.
Yeah.
So
I think even though the movie was before my time, I really enjoy Saturday Night Fever. I mean, I love the Bee Gees. So
Great soundtrack. Every song on there is a hit.
this morning we were dancing to Staying Alive.
Nice.
yeah, see? And it's so funny because a lot of the Bee Gees stuff, it still resonates today.
Yeah.
I mean, you hear like there's stuff in commercials and films, and they're referenced in sitcoms. And
I go out every morning for a 30-minute walk, and when that comes on my playlist, when Staying Alive comes in, all of a sudden I'm strutting instead of walking, from my walk.
yeah, it's between Staying Alive, Eye of the Tiger, and even the Rocky theme. It's like those songs, like there's just something about them that just like gets your blood pumping and it makes you feel good.
Yeah, it does. You're right. The music on Saturday Night Fever always makes me put a smile on my face. Gets me going.
But soundtracks have been around longer than what we're talking about. I mean, I've got one. Here you go. There's an old one.
Oh, wow,
Yeah.
Okay, say what you want about it. Popular, really good music there. And you go look at like oh God, it's Stage Door, Backstage Door, or something like that, or U.S. Cantina from the Second World War. Some dynamite big band music big band music that was never released on soundtracks as we know them today. But the music was just great stuff. So, I mean, soundtracks go further back than what we're used to.
Yeah. I mean, even like stuff like my favorite Christmas movie of all time is White Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And so like that soundtrack with Danny Kaye and Bing Crosby, it's a great soundtrack.
Oh, yeah. My wife loves that film. Anything by Rodgers and Hammerstein.
Yeah. And it's so funny because I have a friend that likes Christmas stuff too, and they prefer Holiday Inn over White Christmas. But
yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, Holiday Inn's a good movie too.
I don't know. I like Singing in the Rain.
There's hope for you, Willow.
All those musicals are pretty much great soundtracks. Sound of Music,
Yeah.
Mary Poppins.
My daughter can sing one of the songs from Mary Poppins. She was singing for her class. She was singing the Spoonful of Sugar.
Well, if we're going that route, I would say that practically almost every movie that John Williams has scored could fall into these categories. Star Wars, Jaws.
And that would be a score versus a soundtrack, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
But those are memorable. I mean, you could walk into a room anywhere, boom, that song would be playing. You could tell the movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's incredible, but it's actually not my favorite. And that's the thing. It's with so many movies coming out and seeing movies in retro. My favorite score per se soundtrack changes constantly.
Oh yeah.
Oh, there's so many.
In fact, I would go and say that Back to the Future is one of my favorites because it kind of had a mixture because you also had the music from Huey Lewis and the News, kind of thrown in there with, I think, what's his name? Silvestri.
Mark.
Oh yeah, there we go. We got something there.
And then there's everything else.
Alan Silvestri, yeah, and you can tell. I mean, they made an attraction in a theme park over at Universal Studios, and you hear, and you knew exactly where you're walking into. And not only that, but the music goes throughout the movies. There's Terry.
Yeah,
you're on the wrong side. Get over here.
These are all great soundtracks.
Transformers the movie, yeah.
And in Rocky 4 was just one giant music video. And speaking of Rocky 4, Sly just announced that he's going to do a director's cut of that film. And he hopes to get it out next year.
Wow.
Prince and the Batman soundtrack, though, that was something we everybody owned that. That was big.
Oh, look at that! He's got the vinyl. Is that even open or is that not open?
No, it's open.
Oh, okay.
But I just left it on because it protects the cover. But I mean, this was the Prince additional music that you heard in the background.
Yeah, one of my favorite songs of that soundtrack is "Party Man."
Could there be a question about the argument of saying that the soundtrack was actually more popular than a movie?
Yes,
Like
I got
Batman?
one for you. There was a Nick Nolte film in the early 1980s called Teachers.
Oh,
I
yeah.
remember that. Yeah.
And the soundtrack sold more than ticket sales.
I could go better.
Yeah, because nobody saw the movie, but everybody knew the music.
I saw the movie, and I want my 2 hours back.
I saw the movie. I liked it, actually.
I want my 2 hours back.
Okay, I saw Joe Beth Williams walking in the buff in a school. I was a happy camper. I didn't think that could actually happen, but I saw the mother of Poltergeist show up nude in a TV
My friends
show.
wouldn't forgive me if I didn't mention Xanadu.
Oh,
Yeah, Yellow.
It's loved
Great
everywhere,
music.
but somehow in Winnipeg it survives.
Great music, horrible film.
Yeah.
I love that movie. That movie is iconic, Jerome. Everybody got their skates on and skating around, and ELO was just like perfect. They were so awesome.
I'm not denying the music wasn't good. It's just the movie was bad.
We are the reason why Xanadu is popular.
I gotta give it credit. The one scene where they're having the music fight, which the only way I could put that, the two, they had the big band and they were starting, and then the music started to melt together. I thought that was one of the most iconic scenes because they knew they were playing with the music, and then there's Gene Kelly going like, "Oh, I'm going to bring in the big band," and I think it's Michael Beck or whatever his character was, or whatever, coming in, and then all of a sudden the music started going together, and there's Olivia Newton-John, and I'm just like, dude, that's awesome. But yeah, ELO was
all us boys had crushes on Olivia Newton-John.
Yeah,
some of them healthy.
1980. There you go.
Exactly.
So, Christian, I guess you had "Let's Get Physical" music video on repeat.
No, I hated that song. What was it? There was a song that I really liked of hers, and it wasn't. It was. I think they were riding, and get me on this, Jerome. I think you know this one. It was riding on the crest of, they were trying to make a movie with the stars of Grease, with Olivia Newton-John and John Travolta, and the story was so. I gotta find it.
No.
It had some really great characters. There's character actors like Gene Hackman was God, and Scatsman Carruthers. They had all these great characters.
Yeah.
Two of a kind. It was two of a kind.
Yeah, that's right. I actually saw that film in the theaters. I'm sorry.
I liked
it. It was a really good musical. Horrible film.
But there was a song from that movie which was really cool, and I love the song, and I think it was
let's see here.
Gosh, now I gotta.
Are you thinking Twist of Fate? Was it
Twist of Faith? Yeah, Twist of Fate.
Yeah.
It was a really nice song, and it was just basically Olivia Newton-John standing on some kind of platform with water all around her. I guess it was. And there comes John Travolta. Hey, I'm here at the end of the thing. But the song was so cool. I loved it, and I just like. Can Olivia Newton-John do no wrong? And then I saw Let's Get Physical.
Yeah, but as much as we joke about physical, that song sold a ton.
I know. What was the Titanic theme song by that Canadian chick? I can't think of her name.
You guys can keep her. As far as I'm concerned, Celine Dion can stay in.
Celine Dion sang that song from Titanic, and I will never play that again.
Oh
for
no,
as long
please,
as I live.
no.
but it's the staple. But I'm just like, yeah, they killed that. They overkilled that and killed it again. And then they took a knife out and a weed whacker and killed it again.
And then they ground it up into hamburger.
Right. And they pushed it off the door, thanks, Rose, into the ocean with the Titanic because there was room for Aurelio, but it's okay.
So what makes a great soundtrack? What makes a soundtrack stand out to be iconic?
Cats throwing up in Willow's house.
Soundtrack.
Careful.
Yeah, go ahead, Willow.
It's only a matter of time before my cat decides to show everybody his butthole.
We just had a 10-minute conversation
Don't encourage that.
about how they can play it. But now we've got cats throwing up and cat buttholes. But our kids are quiet.
Hey, isn't that what keeps cats alive?
And if you're just joining us, this is about soundtracks and scores. Thank you for playing here.
Look, a soundtrack. What makes a soundtrack good is you've got to have a couple of songs on there that hook you. Okay, that have to hook you emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yes.
Think about the songs that we've been talking about. Okay, the songs that we've been talking about, you still remember what, 30, 40, almost 50 years later, and they have an emotional impact on you today. Okay, they had an emotional impact at the time. Also, it helps if the song is pertinent to the movie scene that it's in.
Yes.
You can't put a love song during a car chase. Okay, it doesn't work.
Hey,
You know?
it works for Deadpool. Come on.
Yeah, but that's Deadpool. You know, that's the rule.
Deadpool breaks the rules, so it doesn't really count.
But
You mentioned
The
Deadpool.
opening scene in
Can I just say
Deadpool is
Celine Dion's song
fantastic.
in Deadpool 2 was awesome?
Yeah, okay, I'll give her credit, yes.
Yeah, that's
Especially
all.
at the end
They
of the
set the
video.
mood. They set the mood for the scene. So that's you can, like, when you hear the song, you can remember the scene from the movie.
Yeah. I play like, all right, let's say I play a Kenny Loggins song, any Kenny Loggins song, and I know exactly what movie it's from
Yep.
or TV show.
Yeah.
I play I hear the dun 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 dun, and suddenly I'm thinking Top Gun.
Yep.
You start playing Footloose, and now you're seeing, Kevin Bacon dancing in a barn. Okay.
Yeah.
A song has to not only connect with you in the film, but afterwards also, so that it's a hook into your brain.
Then
It's like with "I'm All Right." You see that little gopher shaking.
Yeah,
on the lawn.
exactly.
Caddyshack, yeah.
Yeah.
Then you hear what was it, that song, Nobody's Fool, and then you just pretend Caddyshack 2 never happened.
Exactly.
I tell people that was the multiverse of Caddyshack.
Or you hear Michelle Pfeiffer singing something from Grease 2 and then decide to, poke your ears, drums out. Okay.
You mean like a Cool Writer?
Yes. The less said, the better.
If you have to spell the title of your song out, you're done.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's it.
But think about all the great songs that we've been discussing. That we joke about.
There's a cat.
There's a cat in his roses.
Let's see, it's our butthole.
They're taking over.
But yeah, songs and groups of songs that really connect with you. You know exactly what you're dealing with. Okay. You look at, like, Ghostbusters. Okay. Suddenly you're seeing either visions of a library, or you're thinking of Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Yeah.
So all right, so let's see what else. What have I got still here? Okay.
But Jerome, I mean, there's also the thing about with the soundtracks is that, and I think this goes for any music. When if you buy an album, back in the 80s and 90s when you were buying the albums or the CDs, it's just like, I bought this CD for the one song, but I got like 10 that I really hate and I don't care about the rest of them.
Welcome to K-Tel.
Yeah, but it's like Ghostbusters. Not only could you hear Ghostbusters, you could hear each song, Spin City and all those other songs.
Oh, yeah.
And you could see exactly in your brain what scene was playing at that time. it's magic, 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 man. You know,
Yeah.
all the, you know, it's great that the one or two songs that support it, like they're like the mast of the ship, the front end of the ship, to, you know, seeing what sails, but it's the rest of the ship that has to contain the movie. And if they got like dud music there, it doesn't work out. And I think something like Men in Black, with two, what was it? Just one Will Smith and two. I actually like the soundtrack to Men in Black, but only 3 songs actually made it into the movie. I'm like, okay, well, what's the rest of this nonsense here?
Yeah.
And it's Danny Elfman. How could you go wrong? So
Yeah.
And I think, you know, especially with radio, you know, radio promoting the movie and the song helps the soundtracks as well.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
wedding singer. Terry.
But I mean, okay, so if you take a look at like what you were just saying there, Kristen, I mean, let's say a Phil Collins film, and you know the song.
Did you really say a Phil Collins film?
I did because
get rid of him, please.
no. Hear me out for a second. There was some '80s film. The title was
Buster.
a Phil. Huh?
Buster.
No, not Buster. I'm thinking else.
Oh, really?
Against All Odds.
Yes, Against All Odds.
Okay.
Nobody to this day can tell you about that film because nobody remembers it, but they remember the damn song from it.
Right.
Okay, and that's what I'm trying to get to: is great song, horrible movie. You know, try to remember what the plot was to that movie, but you'll immediately see the music video the moment you hear that song with scenes from the movie. You know?
Yeah,
But I think a lot of that is being airplayed. Like that song still is played today.
Well, yeah.
Right.
So, like, I mean, I think a lot of times it has to be the movie has to make sense to the music, but that music has to transcend the time period too.
Yeah.
So like I grew up listening to everything from the 70s that my mom was listening to.
Oh yeah.
So when I saw Dazed and Confused, I was like, holy crap, like my entire childhood is in this. It really wasn't my childhood, it was my mom's childhood, but it was my childhood because I grew up listening to that music. And because I knew it, I was like, oh, well, you know, this is kind of cool. You know, I'm learning about the 70s. It's great because I didn't live then.
I've got one further back for you, okay? I grew up listening to the soundtracks, basically the soundtrack of American Graffiti.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
So
wow,
whenever
yeah.
I heard 50s music, I thought it was my childhood also, you know, because my dad grew up in the 1950s. You know, my father went to American Graffiti and came back and went, yeah, that was pretty much my childhood. You know?
Yeah.
Did you grow up then listening to a lot of Motown as well?
No, he did no Motown, but think about the 1950s. You know, Motown was, you know, late 50s, early 60s, but all the other stuff, you know, but like what Nicole was saying, you know, we all grew up listening to whatever our parents played, and then we hear it in the movies, and we think, you know, we have an emotional connection to it.
Yep, pretty much. Like I'm very much the same way with you, Jerome. I grew up listening to the classic rock and oldies. I loved listening to the oldies. Even now, like stuff from the 50s and 60s, rockabilly stuff.
Oh yeah, I
Oh
agree.
yeah, absolutely.
Well, and I think that's why soundtracks like soundtracks from Kill Bill and Pulp Fiction, and how, you know, Tarantino picks from multiple decades to play, you know, because it's like the soundtrack of our lives, whether it transcended us before us or, you know, it's current. It's the stuff that we grew up listening to. Like, I mean, in Pulp Fiction, there's Jungle Boogie, Son of a Preacher Man, and Girl, You'll Be a Woman Soon. I don't know how to transcend 40 years of music in a 2-hour movie, but he did it.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why it's brilliant. It's so brilliant.
But it's not
Yeah.
about transcending. It's not about transcending time. It's about putting the right music to the right scene.
Yes.
You can have something. You can have a rap song here and something from the 1940s here if that works with the scene.
And to answer Alfred is yes.
It's considered soundtrack if it was not during the movie, but is playing
Yes.
during the credits. Yes.
Because the credit song is
Yeah,
usually
because it's still part of the movie. It's still encompassing an emotional response, even if you're walking out of the film. Because you hear some people who will sit down in the theater and listen to the soundtrack.
Yeah.
Even though they'll listen to the play. But I was going to say, in this particular case, when a score, I guess for a better term, in this particular case, coins the movie, i.e. Bernard Herrmann's soundtrack for Psycho and the stabbing scene in the movie. It's just a bunch of violins going beep, 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 and going into it. Or Jason Voorhees in the Friday the 13th films when we hear which was, I think, if I remember correctly when I was watching the documentaries on that, kind of mistakenly came into that frame because people were even thinking that it actually had dialogue into it. That actually was like kill, 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 mom, or some weird thing, something to that effect. But it's just like when the music actually coins it. Now,
well, look at the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Oh, the way,
Exactly. There you go. That's exactly how they made it. They didn't use musical instruments. It was all verbal because when they pitched it, they went, "Okay, let's just do that." Okay, but I mean,
we have a budget.
but I agree with you, Christina. It's when does the coinage of what he was just saying go from score to soundtrack? And that's a more interesting question to me. You know,
I think it all depends on the licensing. If you're able to get the license from a song that you want in a certain scene, then. But if you get denied, then you have to figure out your own
YouTube
way.
will let you know what the when this gets demonetized. It's like, okay, now I can't hum that now. Thank you. Over.
You know what I like about film and soundtrack is when you take a film, for instance, Guardians of the Galaxy, took a whole bunch of songs that maybe weren't as popular as they once were and made them popular again.
Oh, I mean, come on, how much of the millennials have ever heard of Cherry Bomb?
Oh God, yeah.
Right.
You know?
Okay, well, I had, but
but
I was listening to old music. Like I was.
But you're also from California, aren't you?
I'm from California.
He's from California. I'm from Michigan.
But I don't consider us millennials.
I don't either. I'm a Gen Xer, actually.
Okay. But a lot of people had never heard of Cherry Bomb, have never heard of the Runaways, you know, and didn't know that it was Joan Jett in there and all that.
How is that possible? It's Joan Jett.
I don't know. I don't understand. Like people who were born in like the early 90s, you can tell that there is like a huge generation gap when it comes to music.
Yeah.
Somehow parents don't teach their kids right.
You know what I think it is? I think that you get into a point where it's like when the computer that's when the computers really took off and the internet, and people didn't listen to music as much as they do now. They play video games and they're immersed in their phones and online. And I think that a lot has been lost because of that.
Yeah.
You know, I think like the history of music. I mean, because when we were kids, you know, I grew up in the 70s and 80s. You know, Mom would be cooking in the kitchen and she'd have the radio on with Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head playing. You know, and you were immersed in that music. That was like the background music of your life. Now, you know, unless you're in the car with your kids, there's really you're not really playing music. You're immersed on the television or on your computer or your phone.
Well, I think it also has a lot to do with the tech too, because, you know, I was a kid when 8-tracks were going out of style, and here comes the thing called cassette. And if I wanted to repair a cassette, I got a number 2 pencil and I started twisting.
Right.
And then all of a sudden CDs, and now we're up to, you know, YouTube, downloading and all these YouTube things are coming around. But movies, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jerome, on this one. Movies like Good Morning Vietnam, which was current day for Robin Williams, but it had a 50s and 60s soundtrack. Not only that, I will argue that movie alone brought back that song from Louis B. Armstrong, What a Wonderful World.
Yeah,
well, I heard it and that kept it going.
Yeah, I think it ended up on the top 40.
Yeah,
it did. For me, that song, I was exposed to it on the radio broadcast with Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, because that was played on the last episode.
Okay.
But I agree with what you're saying. Okay, let's take another one. Okay. The Blues Brothers.
Great.
Okay? Great music there. And Aretha Franklin and James Brown had publicly came out after that movie came out and said, thank you for saving our careers.
Oh wow.
People went out and bought and explored those musics. And to this day, I'm sorry that they cut the John Lee Hooker song out of there, out of the later versions. But that's a case. You're absolutely right. These musics can revitalize careers, revitalize songs that whole people had completely forgotten about. And you're absolutely right, Christian.
But if the right film comes in and pays homage to those songs, it just happened to be in the right fit because Vietnam was going that. This was the music.
Yeah,
but I don't even remember any of these songs. I mean, I grew up Elton John, Beatles, Steely Dan, all those guys. But how about them? The great Satchmo,
did that
all
with
of them.
Queen.
My dad was in Vietnam, so for me, this was a soundtrack for me when you were talking about when you were in Vietnam, and you're right about the Queen, movie. I mean, that was like all that music right there was my childhood. I was listening to Queen,
Highlander and Flash Gordon, great soundtracks.
Mm-hmm.
Great soundtrack. Less said about Flash Gordon, the better.
Oh God!
I think sometimes too.
I have a heart for Flash Gordon. Sorry.
In 1983, the movie The Big Chill came out, and I had back then there was like HBO and the movie channel and Cinemax. I think that was the only thing, and they would play that movie
endlessly.
I would watch it. That movie introduced me to Motown music, and I became such a huge fan of Motown from that movie.
You know what? Also, at the same time, was also St. Elmo's Fire and Breakfast Club,
the Brat Pack series,
the Brat Pack, and so on. But I mean, you look at so you were talking Big Chill. To this day, we talk about that. You still see the Big Chill music. It's still selling. People talk about it, but nobody can remember the movie. Nobody remembers what the movie was about.
The movie does have a following. I mean,
no, I don't dispute it does. But ask the average person who's seen it like a few years ago. Can you give me what the plot was?
I can honestly say that I know about the movie, but I've never seen the movie.
I mean, that film introduced us to Kevin Kline and others.
But
Glenn Close, that was one of her first films, Glenn Close.
Yep.
But
Who was the dead actor? Who was the dead actor? Wasn't that Kevin something? I can't think of.
It was what's his name?
Dances with Wolves.
Still the Dreams.
Dances with Wolves. We know his movies. We don't know her. Kevin Costner. Yeah, Kevin Costner.
Yes, he played the dead guy, and his scenes were cut except for his flat arms.
I have to watch the movie now.
He did it again in Waterworld. He played a dead guy. Anyway.
Jeff Goldblum was in there. William Hurt, Kevin Kline, Meg Tilly, Jo Beth Williams. Those are some of the big names there.
Right, but what you're saying,
I really love that movie. It's a character piece, is what it is.
Oh yeah.
So, there's no car, big car scenes or anything like that. But it means a lot to me, that movie. But I can understand a lot of people probably have never even heard of it. So
well, you're right, Rose. It's just like, okay, tell me the plot to St. Elmo's Fire. Tell me the song. I can climb the highest mountain. I mean, everybody knows the song by heart.
What's the other movie with Diane Lane and William Dafoe, Streets of Fire?
Oh, that's such a good movie.
Yes.
I love the soundtrack to that movie. That's a great film.
Streets of Fire?
Streets of Fire.
Is that the one? Dun, 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 dun.
The name slips one, but it's a pop. It was huge on the radio. I can't remember the name.
Wasn't that Streets of Fire?
I can dream about you.
Yeah, that was Michael Pare.
Oh yeah.
So was that Streets of Fire?
Yeah, Michael Pare, Diana Lane, and Rick Moranis. Okay. Michael Pare was on a roll after Eddie and the Cruisers for a while, and then this came out, and that was the end.
I think when I was growing up,
Philadelphia Experiment. That was a good movie.
Yeah.
Then he made Eddie's Lib, and then he made Eddie Lives, and the ghost. No, he don't. No, he doesn't. He died in the first movie. That's Caddyshack 2. That's a multiverse episode.
We have children.
But again, what we're talking about on some of this, though, is some movies have individual songs that transcend the movie. Okay, yep. You have one song, nobody remembers the movie, like you were saying with St. Elmo's Fire. It was a Brat Pack version of The Big Chill.
Yes.
Okay. Forgettable completely, but it had a couple of good songs. Okay. Again, so we're back to what makes a good soundtrack, and again, it has to deal with a combination of the film and catching your heartstrings.
Yeah. Chariots of Fire. I don't remember the movie, but I remember some guys running on a beach. That's all I remember.
That's
or Vacation running down towards Wally World. That's
Well, speaking of movies where the music and the movie go hand in hand, The Big Lebowski.
I've never actually seen that film.
Never
Seen that film.
I haven't either.
Get on it. It's worth it.
But also, I think a lot of the movies that came out in the 90s were really reflective of 90s music and that alt rock period of time. So we had like Empire Records, and we had Romeo and Juliet, the Baz Luhrmann remake or whatever, and then
Clueless.
we had Clueless, and we had a lot of that time period that were a lot of teenage movies like Can't Hardly Wait, and like a lot of those teenage movies and things I had about.
If you ever had a chance to listen to the soundtrack to The Crow,
that's a good soundtrack.
I mean, that's some serious heavy music. I mean, this ain't a light and fluffy, feel good movie.
And it wasn't necessarily mainstream either, and I think that people went out and looked for it after they became followers of the movie. I think
I did. I've got the Crow soundtrack floating around here somewhere.
Yeah, I don't think I ever listened to any of that music before The Crow.
Yeah. I think what they usually do is they'll take like one song and they'll put it on radio, and then the rest will what you consider album tracks or B-sides or.
I guess, but like Empire Records, like with Empire Records, they took everybody that was popular in the 90s and they had a spot on that out in that movie somewhere.
Well,
so Jim Blossom, the Cranberries, the Toad the Wet Sprocket, everybody. So
go watch Pump Up the Volume.
That too. Christian Slater.
Yeah, and that's that's got some good music too.
By the way, for those of you who heard the word B-side from Brian, the struggle is real. We had to take that record and pull it up and flip it over and put it down.
yes.
And then we had a B-side.
We had a B-side, exactly. And
you had to turn the cassette tape over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, trust me, it's harder on the vinyl because I've got 45s floating around here somewhere.
45s too, but.
Well,
and more cassette tapes.
We're going to take a quick ad break here.
Yeah.
Okay. And we're going to play an ad for one of our family members.
Like legit.
You may recognize them.
This is the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Subscribe to us wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. Also catch us on the HWWS Web TV YouTube channel. Subscribe today and become part of the legend. The hell was that? What the hell?
Wow.
That's a lot of purple in there, Joker.
What the hell?
That was slick.
I love it.
It is a great show, especially for the Doctor Who fans. I mean, you've been at it. I've watched you over the years, pounding the ground.
Long time.
Yeah. Maybe just a little.
You're talking about the show and not me in general, right? You didn't come over to my house.
You and I are going to have to talk about the old days of the Doctor.
God, that would be great. I love talking about classic. We tried to do classic, and then something comes up and we do contemporary. But
you and I are going to have to talk about Baker and Sarah.
Oh, that we had an episode, we had a tribute, and plus we were, and I want to get back to it eventually, we were going to do what we called the Renegades, which were Time Lords who didn't make it into the New Who, and the first episode was the Valyard. We haven't gone back, but we wanted to do Monk, Ronnie, Ramana, Drax, all of them, and say, one of the questions is, what are they doing now, and are they fighting the Time War? We never even got to those guys.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, they're like, some of the classic companions, that the Doctor is defined by his companions.
Yes, he is. Do me a favor, Brian. Make it bigger. Make bigger. make this screen bigger, just for 1 second. 1 second. Trust me on this.
All right.
Just make bigger.
Yeah, make him bigger.
Who
Make
needs
it
to
bigger.
have that show?
I don't want to make it bigger.
Make bigger. We only
Let
got
me
15 minutes left.
here. I got to take everybody else down.
Oh, you don't. Have to, oh, you don't have to. You don't have to do that.
I don't.
No, just click on the. There's a little icon right next to my head. It's like a person. There's like a person.
Nope, not that one.
Okay. No. In my square right here, in my square where you see the
Right
5
there.
of us, there's a little person like here. I think. There you go. Chris Chibnall. There's more than 3 Time Lords on Gallifrey. Thank you. Go back. Bring me back. We're done. There you go. Thank you.
What?
There we go. More than 3. Bring them out. Bring them out of retirement.
That's what that button does. Alrighty then.
We learn things. What a score between a soundtrack, cats throwing up, and their buttholes. Everything. We learned this today.
This show is
Yeah,
all
but it
full of
wasn't. But
excitement.
it wasn't Willow's cat who showed up. It was Rose's cat.
I know, but we saw butthole, and that was good.
Well, there we go. We got the
Oh, Lord.
exclusive to the Universal Cats movie.
And
the
suddenly
butthole
we
edition.
didn't realize why Doctor Who hates cats.
Yeah. Okay.
So
Down,
on the soundtrack, this one just popped in my mind of a film using a lot of older stuff, and that's Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Twist and Shout with him at the parade. Twist and Shout.
Twist and shout.
Yeah,
Which
yeah. I
is-
mean, it was equally a great movie and a soundtrack. I think.
You'll
I
notice,
agree.
you'll notice here that the films that we are all talking about, the great ones, or a lot of them are 80s films. Okay. And a lot of those 80s films, though, is that they really it tied into the whole MTV thing, if you look at it.
Yeah.
Okay. And you can see the parallels of how has MTV moved up. You had more soundtrack, more songs in movies. And then as MTV went down, so did the soundtracks. You know, you can see the rise and fall there, and it's an interesting connection. You know?
Well,
You know,
like,
I want to bring up another great soundtrack that's like almost every song on there is great, and that's Flashdance. It's talking about
Yes.
the TV era. You know, that's a really good one. And I don't even really know what that movie was about, but I know every song on that soundtrack.
Well,
I have no idea
like,
what it was.
she
about.
brings
You
up
watched
a
Dirty
good
Dancing,
point
but
there.
You know, it was about a Fieldstown girl on a Saturday night. You know, looking for life. You know,
You don't have to watch the movie. You just listen to that song, and
You're
that's
sitting
it.
on the floor, you know.
Welder by day, stripper by night, wants to be a ballerina. There you go. There's your skit. There's your
Yeah.
movie plot.
And then,
That's
you have, I don't know, I guess they would be considered cult followings because they're not super huge films, but the breakdancing films, Breakin' 1 and 2, they.
Electric Boogaloo.
Wait a minute, back to Electric Boogaloo, exactly. Nobody remembers the second movie, but they remember Electric Boogaloo because they put that everywhere.
Yeah,
Well,
I
I
think
remember the
Electric Boogaloo
character-
just goes hand in hand.
I remember in part 2 where Turbo was beaten up in the park and thrown down the stairs.
Wow.
And he ended up with like a broken arm or something like that, or a broken leg.
Wow, you admit that you saw it.
Hey, I had an older brother who was into breakdancing, and he listened to what you would call lowrider music,
Jerome.
which was a lot of like 50s and 60s music. And so
Yeah, Christian.
why do I envision like an episode of The Goldbergs where Barry
Jerome, you know he went into a dumpster, pulled out a cardboard, put it on his driveway, and next thing he was popping. Half of it just his back, but that's another story.
Willow, I'm thinking
I
more
would have
along
liked
the
to
lines.
be a fly on the wall that day.
I'm thinking more along the lines of there was a scene similar to this in Futurama.
Yes.
Okay.
Now, Brian, here's one that I think was interesting because we were talking. We were skirting around the holidays. We were talking about Psycho and Friday the 13th. But interesting enough, I was listening to my Pandora and the iHeart station. But Pandora has those little channels, and one of them was classical Christmas music, which I thought was weird. But well, in the sense that, let me finish, Jerome. I know that's what I thought was weird is that I heard music that I recognized. I was like, wait a minute, this sounds so familiar. They were playing the soundtrack to A Christmas Story. Yes. And I didn't realize those songs were built into my head. And I was listening to that soundtrack. It's like, wait a minute, that's when Dad comes home. Wait a minute, that's when Ralphie beats the crap out of that kid. I'm like, wait a minute, Pandora is making me watch this movie, listening to the soundtrack, and it's like, I didn't realize.
But there you go, Christian. You just said it yourself. I'm hearing a song, I'm seeing the scene in the movie, and now I'm rewatching the whole film as the song is played. You know?
Yeah, that's not fair. Wasn't it back in the 80s there was something like they were putting stuff in movies that were, what was it?
Subliminal messages?
Subliminal messages, yeah. I'm just like, not fair. 2020, they probably put the chip in already.
What about a couple movies where the main theme song was in reference to the title of the movie, which was Cannonball Run and National Lampoon's Vacation?
You know, I don't remember any of the music from Cannonball Run. I remember the car chases. I remember a lot of the jokes, humor, and all that. I don't remember a single bit about the music on Cannonball Run.
Well, what about this?
The main song was called Cannonball Run.
Well, what about this? We got a long way to go and a short time to get there. I'm down to watch your bandit run.
Yeah.
Really, they don't.
But okay, so you had that. But I mean, okay, so earlier, I don't remember if it was before or after the show, we were talking about Saturday Night Live. I mean, Saturday Night Fever. Sorry. But after that was, you know, you had the dance music and all that. But the next big film for John Travolta was he reintroduced country music, which was Urban Cowboy.
Oh, that's right.
And Urban Cowboy soundtrack was very popular.
Yeah.
You know, we forget about Urban Cowboy because basically it was Saturday Night Fever for the Cowboy set.
It was Staying Alive. Cowboy version.
Yeah, pretty much. But all of that soundtrack was popular at the time. Okay, look at Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? That soundtrack got a Grammy as the best album of the year. Yeah. I mean, that's on my iPod for, you know, for listening, you know, on the cycle through. I mean, the songs are good. I mean, I play some of the songs. I can see exactly what's going on in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Are you a man of constant sorrow?
Of course I am.
And I love how George Clooney came out and said, "No, that is not me singing. I mouth the words because I have no talent."
Yeah, but the guy who sang when they were singing about in the jailhouse, now that was him singing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, but you look at that song, which is basically nothing more than the Iliad in modern times. That soundtrack is dynamite. I mean, it's still very strong and powerful music.
And
it's an
I
Urban
love
Cowboy.
I'm sorry, Christian. I'm sorry about Urban Cowboy.
No, because that brought me flashbacks of somebody saying, "You know, what would be a great idea? Let's take Dolly Parton and Sylvester Stallone and make a cowboy movie." And I watched that movie.
I knew you were going to do that.
It hurts. It hurts right here. There's a pain that BC powder won't cure, and that's right there. What
about this one? Dolly Parton, 9 to 5.
You know what? That song was huge.
Right.
9 to 5 was a great film.
Oh, wait.
The film does have a following.
It does. Like, I have to hurt Christian now because he hurt me. So now I have to give back to him.
Go ahead.
The best little whorehouse in Texas.
Oh, yeah.
As a whorehouse in it.
It was actually pretty good.
At least they stayed with, and it was the Burt Reynolds and Dolly Parton, right? If that was it was like, let's get Rocky Balboa, a 9 to 5 chick, and let's bring it on, and we can make this work. I'm like,
no, you can't. I think
Parton wants to be in Playboy again. The fact that she wants to be in Playboy at the age of 70 or in her 70s is fantastic. I applaud her.
Yeah.
She has a hot body. She's hot.
But she also makes no bones about how much work she's had done either.
Yeah, that's true.
That's true. I mean, that's pretty. I mean, she's not real, but she's real about not being real.
She's authentic about being not authentic.
I will put it this way: if she was on the Titanic,
they made a sequel to 9 to 5, right? It just hasn't come out yet.
Yeah,
I don't think it has. I don't think it ever did.
What were you saying, Christian, about if she was on the Titanic?
no, if she was on the Titanic, she would have been a perfect location
device. Yeah.
Although she does say those are real. She does say those are real.
I can vouch. I will vouch for her.
I'm not going any further than this. This is as far as I go, no further. I'll get in trouble.
Yeah, but you can tell when they're fake, and hers aren't fake.
All right, well, I'm not getting any further.
I'm sure she's had work done to try to reduce them, but it's very possible for boobs to get that big.
Anyway, back to music. Yeah.
Well, that descended rapidly. I did.
It got
Well, what about
those TV shows soundtracks?
Well, I was gonna suggest one more movie soundtrack, Cocktail.
Oh
Yes,
yes,
that
that's
was a
a
good movie.
great one.
Wow, yeah, good music, horrible movie.
Yeah, the movie is forgettable.
Here's a TV show with some decent music.
Oh, that's a good one.
Moonlighting. Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that had some great classics in it.
So, but when they released the show on DVD, did they have all the music?
I don't know, to be honest. I've got the first floating around here. I haven't seen.
You know what? I can't stand it when they strip the songs from those shows because it's not the way you remember seeing it. You know what I'm saying?
Here's another one. Great soundtrack, great movie with the music was Heavy Metal.
Yes.
Yep.
Christian, I can't hear you.
You need to unmute yourself.
No, so it's like, gosh, that's been a long time. I gotta.
But
That's
that
a great
But that movie though was not available unless it was a bootleg version because like what Rose was talking about was stripping the songs because the artist wouldn't give permission to release it on VHS at the time or DVD later on. And so it took forever for that to come out legally until finally people started signing off on it because they,
Well, if we're going this way, Song of the South, terrific music, bad movie whatsoever. Very bad movie.
I got a bootleg version of it floating around here somewhere.
Oh gosh, everybody does.
Talking about music that the artist wouldn't allow. There's a movie that came out in the 1980s called Electric Dreams. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, I remember that.
I love it. It's a goofy little love story, but I love it. I love the music in it. But Culture Club won't allow the songs to be released in the States. There's not a DVD version of it in the States whatsoever. I just recently had to buy an old VHS copy from a video store to see the movie intact because if you try to watch it on YouTube, they jerk all the music out, and so you're just seeing bits of dialogue and no soundtrack whatsoever. And I don't know what the problem is, but they just never released it.
It's got to be money. It's got to be money.
You can get copies in the UK, okay, but they don't play over here because they're a different region code.
Well, this is why you buy a multi-region player.
I think you admitted that to me, and I'm afraid I'm going to mess up my player if I put in the wrong code. I don't know.
I think, Rose, when I saw that movie, I kept watching it because I kept playing it on HBO like there's nothing, but I was hoping that Bud Cort, like this one-time Bud Cort would go ape on him and go like, Rose, that does not compute. And now I have to kill you. And Virginia Madsen walks in. There's blood all over the place. It's just like I was waiting for that moment. It just didn't happen. Maybe the sequel,
I mean, you look at. I mean, that's the other problem is that a good soundtrack, you have to get the rights to it. Like go back to Pump Up the Volume. Okay, so the signature song is Everybody Knows. Okay, and it's not the same song on the soundtrack that they released. It's a different band singing Everybody Knows versus the guy who died. I can't think of his name, but it's an entirely different song, different artist. And so what happened? Somebody signed off on the movie, didn't like how the movie turned out, and either wasn't paid enough or decided for artistic reasons not to let it go any further than the movie.
Yeah, see, that's what bothers me, especially with TV shows. You'll buy them on, DVDs, and on the back in the little box it says some music has been changed.
Oh, I'll give you WKRP. They did that all when they released the first season. Half the songs were yanked because they couldn't get the rights.
And see, the songs played into a lot of the jokes of that show.
They did. So. They did.
And if you don't have
Life Goes On, they did the same thing because they didn't get the. They couldn't even use their opening theme song. They had to use some. They used some instrumental crap because they did because of the Beatles and the copyright.
Well, also China Beach. Look at China Beach. Yeah. All the music from there has also been pulled.
Yeah, and the biggest would be Baywatch. All the music was when that was released. They pulled all the music, even the opening theme. I had to import the DVDs from Australia just to get all the original music.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
But Jerome, I swear, as God is my witness.
Uh-oh, he's gonna kill me.
I thought turkeys could fly.
But then, Christian, I just have one response to you. Booger.
Revenge of the Nerds.
Oh God, I'm showing my age here.
I'm showing my age too. Okay.
You know what's really funny though, because when you see people again after certain time has gone by, and then all of a sudden Booger was Metatron, and I was like, "What the fuck happened?"
Yeah. I'm having flashbacks because recently on Facebook, my graduating class decided to create a Facebook, and I'm looking at these faces and I'm going, "You don't look like your picture in the yearbook anymore." I'm looking at one girl and I'm going, "Damn, you were hot. What happened?"
Children, that's what happened.
It wasn't just children, trust me.
5 kids, 10 run-up credit cards. You're doing great, honey.
Hey, you know what though?
I'm sure.
23 years later, and I look the same. So
I got a beard. I got a beard and I'm bald. That's about the only difference. I
look at some of these people. I'm like, oh yeah, you had something to say about the size of my butt, but guess what?
And I cannot lie.
I was like, maybe my butt's bigger now, but at least it was big back then. Yours was little, and you thought you were great, and now it's huge.
See, I don't know if I really want to go for my 20th school anniversary, graduation party. I don't know. I didn't really like the people who I went to school with, but the fact is, I'm curious
Willow,
to see how they turned out.
In 2022 is my 40th.
Oh, wow.
Okay. And trust me, 40 years does a number on a lot of your classmates.
It's basically a dating service for those who didn't quite make it back then. It's for the ones that are single who are just like, you know what, back then you were crap. Today, not so bad.
It's also, well, look at you and your horrible life compared to mine. You know?
But okay, going off topic here, but
no.
What song was it that would be the soundtrack to your school career?
Pretty much anything.
Jack, and don't come back no more.
Pretty much anything from the early 80s was my school. There was I remember because I was a semi jock, which meant that I was on the cross country and track teams. I remember listening. There was a lot of the Go-Go's because they came out at the end there. There was REO Speedwagon's High Infidelity. MTV hadn't really taken off, so there wasn't a lot of that yet, the stuff from there. But Thriller was just out. So we were starting to get the early days of Thriller. There was Floyd. Pink Floyd's The Wall came out during my freshman year. Okay, so from about the time of Floyd to the time of Thriller, anything in between was pretty much fair game. You know,
You were asking for a particular song, Steely Dan's "My Old School," and unfortunately, I went to a school in Florida, but I was hoping that song could relate to California because there's a lyric that says "California goes into the sea." That's the time I'll go back to Annandale. So I'm like, yep, that's gonna be it. Oh my god, I gotta ride with Jerome on this one because I had Boy Scouts too.
same here. I'm an Eagle Scout, pal.
Eagle Scout, yep. My geekdom kind of ranged out because my parents were Elton John, Beatles, and I kind of went slightly into Steely Dan, Pink Floyd, but that it depends upon what was going around at the time. What was I can't remember his name. The Stroke. Do you remember that one, Jerome?
Billy Squier.
Billy Squier. I mean, that song was going mad.
Absolutely, that's huge.
I mean, it depended upon what song was big at the time. I mean, Boys to Men was coming into my school. You know, almost every single song that they were singing was being played somewhere. And believe it or not, if anybody remembers KLF, they were a band called KLF, but they changed their name temporarily to the Time Lords, Doctor in the TARDIS. And for whatever reason, I have no idea on this planet. There was a rival school that they had just built called Dr. Phillips.
Right.
And for some odd reason, the football team managed to find the instrumental version of this song. Nobody knew what the song was about, nor where it came from, but me. And every time they played that song, because they were going up against Dr. Phillips, I was the only one dancing out in the sidewalks going, yeah!
So thanks to Christian, I just remembered two great movies, two movies that had great soundtracks and that were iffy at best films. Okay? Mm-hmm. Just so when we get back to, to that. Okay?
So
I mean, go right ahead.
I'll just leave us in suspense then.
Okay, so the movie FM. How many of you remember that movie?
That's Steely Dan, right?
Steely Dan, but it also had Ellen Barnston, Martin Mull. I mean, it was who was the guy from Webster, the father there?
Oh God,
yeah, he was also in it. But my point is not a great film about an FM radio station.
Right.
It also had Linda Ronstadt, good music, dynamite music. The album sold like crazy, but nobody remembers the movie. The other one is Rock and Roll High School.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, great. I mean, the film was hysterical. I love the film, but it didn't do well. But what did we get out of it? We got a lot of really good Ramones music out of it.
It's a cult classic.
It is. And because of it, a buddy of mine gave me his entire Ramones albums to copy over, and then took me to a Ramones concert.
Well, if we're gonna go this route, Love Potion #9.
Ah, dude, good.
Yeah.
Because I think that if wasn't that the movie that started Sandra Bullock's career, or at least that was her first.
That was her first.
Kate Donovan.
It was the first one, but it didn't actually get a lot of play until after Speed.
Okay, so it kind of put her into the realm, and Tate Donovan was in it, but the whole movie was a tribute, soundtrack wise, not to Steely Dan, Donald Fagen, the lead singer.
Yes,
which is kind of odd. It was just like it would be like not Pink Floyd, but the lead singer of Pink Floyd.
All right, I got to ask about this one because I never saw this movie, but I heard it had good music. Was Sex, Lies, and Videotape?
I love that movie.
Did it have music?
I don't remember it too
That's
well.
the problem. I never saw it, but somebody told me it had good music.
It does have good music.
I wouldn't. You know what? I like the movie. I can't really remember a lot of the music, and it had a really good score.
Okay, then
Yeah, it was. It's Andy McDowell and James Spader.
Mm-hmm.
I think the movie's probably dated now, but it's
yes.
I really like that film for its time period.
Yeah,
they call it Sex Tape now or something like whatever that movie was.
So, now it's all digital. Now it's Pornhub.
Yep.
Do a direct download.
I mean,
so to hop back to the soundtrack of
the soundtrack of our lives, like
of our youth.
Anything that was I would say mid 80s to the mid 2000s, really, because that's when I was listening to music. And probably it spans before that too, because I was listening to stuff my mom was listening to. And so I know music from the 70s, and I know music from the 80s, and I know everything from the 90s, because I grew up. So like I was listening to a lot of alternative rock. So I was listening to, ska, and I was listening to other things like that. So pretty much anything that I mentioned before. So it was like
Stone Temple Pilots,
Pearl Jam. I was listening to Jim Blossom's Cranberries. I was listening to Toad the Wet Sprocket. I was listening to anything that comes on 90s on 9 on Sirius XM. And I can think back to where I was when I heard that song. So were we sitting at the Pizza Hut after a football game, or was I working at the ice cream shop, or was I hanging out with friends in the car? So, those songs are the songs that stick with us and become the soundtracks of our lives. But then when we watch movies and something's relatable, like Jerome said, I think those things stick with us. So like the movie Dirty Dancing has always stuck with me. And I get the whole nobody puts baby in the corner, but the Hungry Eyes song.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, pretty much, anything that was in that movie is kind of synonymous. And then, of course, like I said, Empire Records. But, we think about those songs as part of our lives. Like we are so excited about being able to hear them, over and over again in the movies that we love.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I mean, in junior high, for me, it was Tommy.
Yeah.
The film, not the rock opera, but the actual film. I mean, Pinball Wizard with Elton John was huge when I was growing up. To this day, I had a cool English, a really cool music teacher. She would play modern music as a way of teaching us music. To this day, I still know the words to Muhammad Ali. The Black Superman. But it comes down to, how does that song make you feel? Do you listen to it and you're going, nothing? Or does it get you moving? Does it get you thinking? That's what makes the music really good.
It's like that movie Ready Player One. It's
Yes.
you get the opening scene and it's Van Halen's Jump, and it just pulls you right into that movie.
I wish the boys of Rush had given their rights to it, because if you read the book, Rush plays a huge role in the book. And they got the rights for the trailer, but not for the stuff in the movie. And if you haven't gone and read the book, it's well worth your time.
Now that you mention it, Tom Sawyer was for all the
trailer. Yeah. But in the book, what is the album that they do, 20 or something, the Big Future one, plays a huge role in finding one of the keys.
Well,
it's interesting.
I was just looking at this because I had mentioned it earlier. Like when you watch the movie, there's so much of the movie that the music isn't on the soundtrack. So when you go back and watch the movie, you're like, oh yeah, well there was that and all these other songs that you were like, oh, well that would have been important to be on the soundtrack, but I guess there's only so much.
Another great one though is that we haven't even touched on was 8 Mile. With Eminem. The music was really good. The movie was so, but the music was dynamite.
I thought the movie was good, but I also grew up in Michigan and I was a big fan of Eminem. So it was like, it made a lot of sense to see something was a semi-biopic.
Yep.
But I do think that the music fit really well.
Yeah.
But I was going to say something. I forgot now. But damn. I hate it when
It'll come back to you 10 minutes after we shut down the show.
Yeah. We'll be done and I'll be like, oh yeah, that's what I was going to say.
But I was going to bring up a TV show that took a song that I believe it was a number one, or
Gilligan's
at least
Island.
Don't forget the
Carry On Wayward Son by Kansas. Supernatural uses it as its theme song.
So does Anchorman.
I don't think the song went away, but I can't really say that for sure because it was a song that I was listening to when I was growing up and that I had listened to my whole life.
Because of Supernatural, it re-entered the top 10.
But it re-entered the top 10 and it became like an anthem for a lot of strife that people go through, I guess. That whole idea. But that entire show, every piece of music that was chosen for a reason. And so when they released the episodes, I think they got most of it because they wrote the contracts into saying, if we're going to pay for it for the episode on TV, then we're going to pay for it to show up in DVD.
Right. And that's a result of some of the problems that happened way back in the 80s where they couldn't get the rights. So they've included that in the contracts. They learned their lessons. But along the lines of what you guys are saying, another one that really revitalized a lot of careers was Happy Days.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They played a lot of music from the 50s and early 60s on that show.
Arguably started careers too, I think.
Exactly. Yeah. But it also, though, a lot of people, I mean, how many people remembered Rock Around the Clock until that show came, until that is the theme music and all the other stuff that was on the jukeboxes or on the radios or whatever. And that was huge of the 1950s. There was a resurgence of music, of 1950s music during the 1970s because of that show.
Hell, Weezer pulled a whole song.
Yeah,
with a video of Happy Days, and they made a whole song around it. The what was it? I look like just like
Buddy Holly.
Buddy Holly,
yeah.
I was good. I wanted to interject this just for a second. I know this is sidetracking, but I wanted to go back just a little bit. Back what you were doing, Jerome. Is there ever a song that, for a better term, scars you? And this is what I mean. If the scene in we were talking about Jesus Christ Superstar when he's getting whipped, and when I hear that song, I can't even listen to the end because I see and feel what's going on at that moment there. And Tommy, I can't even listen to the soundtrack because I remember the movie, and it's like one bad acid trip without even taking acid. I'm like, wait a minute, you got Anne Bancroft? No, not Anne Bancroft.
And
Bye Bye
Margaret.
Dirty.
And Margaret
and Oliver Reed, and I'm like, you managed to do this with them?
Yeah, come on, and Margaret in almost a tidal wave of baked beans. Okay,
yeah, I just like, how did you convince them? What kind of money? What drugs were offered, and how much did Oliver Reed drink before he went up online?
I'll be honest with what you're asking. I understand where you're asking on this, and I don't really have that because to me, I'm a huge fan of movies. I don't have a lot of films that I don't watch again because of, that or whatever. I'll just like go, I didn't really care for it, whatever. I don't have that whole, like you said, that one scene where I'm scarred for some reason. I just don't get that. But like I said, there are disturbing scenes that are, but that would be with part of the score later on for the next week that we would discuss.
Right, but there was a scene from Jesus Christ Superstar when you and I can hear him getting whipped. I'm just like, I don't want that anymore. And then that's just like, I can't even listen to this song now because
the part of my problem,
bad images.
Yeah, part of what it is like I stated earlier, I had a really good music teacher in the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and she really got into teaching us about music and about how it ties into. So I'm able to basically disassociate from it. So I don't,
I probably didn't help. I saw this at 5, so I'm just like,
I've got one.
What's that?
And I don't know the name of the song, but I can hear it in my head. And the only thing I ever think of is Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs.
My God.
When he is dancing. That's all I ever see. Like, I cannot see who sang the song. I can't even think of the words of the song. That's all I see. And I'm just like, I'm damaged goods from that movie. Really. I'm damaged goods from that movie and probably tons of other ones I've seen. But that one I just can't.
I think I heard that on an alternate radio on XM like a couple of weeks ago. And I was just like, oh my, I just get that visual in my head,
Oh my God. Well, I'm trying to find it here. Goodbye Horses.
Yeah.
Oh no, yeah. I was trying to pull it up on the net to see if I could find the name of the song. Is it called Goodbye Horses?
Because in Clerks 2, it's parodied by Jay.
It's not any better when he doesn't either, by the way. I'm just saying, it's not any better.
He takes the lipstick and
he folds it in.
The whole thing doesn't bother me. Like that whole, I don't know what it is about that scene that bothers me. Maybe it's that I saw Silence of the Lambs when I was far too young.
To be disturbing. I think I think the song and him. He did his job. It's supposed to be a really disturbing scene, I think.
Well, I think it's because up until that scene, you're learning about. Maybe that's what it is.
I don't know, but it just. And to this day, I can honestly say that I have seen that movie one time. Once.
Which movie? Sorry, I had to
Silence of the Lambs. We're talking about the Buffalo Bill dancing scene and the music on that one.
Is that where he's dancing buck naked?
Yeah.
I just want to go up to Ted Levine and go like, dude, you deserve an Academy Award. In fact, I'm traumatized. In fact, ever since I saw Monk and I figured out that Ted Levine was the head cop on there, I was like, oh, because he's so nice, and he's giving Monk a hard time, but he's a nice guy and everything. It's like, wait, you used to? No, never mind.
So on the flip side of what you were talking about, what about a song that's overused in films? Okay, that you see, like, all right, let's take.
I think we can say that Rush tends to be overplayed in a lot of movies.
How about Bad to the Bone?
Oh yeah.
How many times has that been played? Ad nauseum.
I think of Christine, the movie Christine, when I think of Bad to the Bone, though.
There's also the Terminator, and that song is used everywhere. How many other songs are there? I mean, there's a list somewhere of songs that are just overplayed in films, and when you hear it, you get mixed messages in your brain. Which film am I watching today?
That's a good question. I never even really thought about that.
I'm gonna Google search that. I'm sure somebody.
Yeah. Let's see here.
Although I enjoy Lowrider because every time that Lowrider's used, though, there's a different way that it's used, and I kind of appreciate that it doesn't always garnish the same vision in my head, like the same scene.
Yep.
I do Lowrider. How Pee Wee Herman used the song Tequila.
That was hysterical, though. He can dance.
George Lopez took Lowrider and wrote it into the ground. Yes, pun intended. I mean, he had the TV show. He did his comedy specials. It's like, dude, I've heard this song long enough. And I said, I had it enough when they did it with Cheech and Chong. That's it. That's as far, it's also placement of the song. Why is it there?
What about that song?
Anthem for after Cheech and Chong used it, I think it kind of became an anthem for Hispanic heritage somehow.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand how it became that, but everybody was using it. And I have kids. Yeah. I mean, I was teaching in Las Vegas at the time, so 78% of my kids were Hispanic. So that was a song, and the culture was a thing. It was a thing. And I'm like, oh, this is not new, y'all. This is old. I mean, Terry McIver's comedy says Lowrider was so well used and Gone in 60 Seconds. Yeah, it's something. It's the context. As if you're using in the right context and you're hitting in the right spot, it's something that can actually be cherished and used and something. But if it's something that is Celine Dion playing, there's nothing else. Because my radio station only plays 6 songs and 2 of them are Celine Dion songs. I'm just like, you kill it.
The song
you
Writer.
You apparently don't listen to Florida's radio station.
I have Sirius XM, and that's exactly why.
No, I bet we're talking about back then. When it came out on the radio.
What was the song from Easy Rider?
I had CDs in my car.
Christian and Rose, what was the song from Easy Rider?
Oh.
Fine.
Are you talking about Born to Be Wild?
There you go. How many times has that been played in the movie?
That's overplayed.
Oh, yeah.
That's pretty much any movie that has to deal with bikes.
Or rebellion,
I need to ask Christian, then which Celine Dion song from Titanic or what's the other one that she did? I think she did the song with from the Nick Nolte movie. Which one can you handle more? Or Proposal, something proposal.
Indecent Proposal.
Yeah,
Was that in there?
She did the one song from
I don't know. They all sound the same.
Decent Proposal. That's Sade, I think.
No, maybe it's not.
I live with Sade.
It was another '90s film that.
Beauty and the Beast.
No. It was a live action movie. It was like a romance movie that she did the main song for.
Why is Bridges of Madison County coming into my head? It's not that one.
Oh God, no.
Because there's
What were you talking about Celine Dion? You're hurting my head now. I don't want to research her right now.
No, I imagine that when I go to hell, because the road to hell is maybe with good intentions.
What the hell is Celine Dion?
The name of the song is something "You Loved Me" or something like that.
Oh,
Because You Love Me.
Yeah.
I know. I can't think of it.
Now my brain's going.
Well, Up Close and Personal, I think, was the movie there.
Yes, I think you're right. Yeah.
Which actually was a good movie.
No, push them off the door, Rose. Push those two off the door, please.
Well, I know
That's
what
fine. Those can
you
sing.
mean about the. We all have our own circle of hell, and that we imagine being stuck with either someone or something or a song that just is repetitive. For me, my circle of hell, because I work at Starbucks, and we have timers for everything. I have this vision in my head of me being stuck in a room with a timer going off, and I can't find it. That's my circle of hell.
No, mine
Which
is
soundtrack from the movie is this from?
What's that song from The Bodyguard with Whitney Houston?
Oh,
I Will Always Love You.
Oh God! Please don't put me in a room with that song.
It's actually a Dolly Parton song.
It's a Dolly Parton
song.
song.
It's the Whitney Houston version that I feel like I should be howling at the moon.
I love it. I really do.
But it was overplayed. I hear you.
And just recently, because it was used in one of the political conventions, Stop Children, What's That Sound? That song is been put in so many of the wrong places.
Oh yeah,
at the wrong. I literally think there should be a company whose sole job is to go, no, not this movie. No. We played it 10 times already in the last 2 years. No.
Yeah, we're putting it on the shelf for a while.
Right. We'll give you something. We'll give you Michael Jackson. We'll give you this. Well, we're not going to. No.
Well, this goes back to why artists won't let films have rights to film certain songs, is because, like what just Kristen said, it's played too many times. How many times did I hear this? I don't want to keep hearing it with in how many different movies this year.
Terry.
Yeah, Terry's right.
Yeah.
So that's part of what they're like. It's going to kill my song. Nobody's going to want to hear it again. It's played off. And that's part of the reason why they don't. Songs disappear from the films.
But see,
I think it's sad though, because it is the anthem of our lives. Like Sweet Home Alabama will always have a place on the soundtrack of my life. And I'm not from Alabama.
The tune itself has been used in several other songs.
What are you doing, Rose?
She's doing the phone. On the phone.
She's talking to her agent.
She's dealing with family. It's family.
Not only is that song overplayed, but Kid Rock took a fillet knife to it and ruined it again. I'm like, okay. No.
But
come back in 5 years.
That's just it. That tune itself has been used in several different songs, and Kid Rock did a sample of it. And then there's Brain Part. Is Werewolves in London?
Yeah.
I don't even like that song. Is that the Zane? What's his name? He was one of the musicians for David Letterman. I can't.
For what? Werewolves in London?
Werewolves in London. That song. It's a Halloween song now, and it's just like every time I hear it, werewolves.
Hang on a second here. I'll get it.
Warren
Zevon.
Warren Zevon. Yeah.
He wasn't. As far as I know, he was never with Letterman.
I thought he was.
No, you're thinking of
Paul Schaefer.
Schaefer.
No. I could have sworn that because I remember when he passed, Letterman said something to the fact that because I saw it on his show and he was, I thought he had something, or if he was an advisor or something, but he actually mentioned his passing on his show one day. But regardless of that, yeah, I don't even like that song. I mean, it's just like all it is halfway through is
Yeah.
and it's not even rhymed or reasoned. It's just there's Lon Chaney and his kid doing the werewolves in London.
Sorry about that.
Like if you can't get Sweet Home Alabama, you can get another version of it.
Yeah.
No. We need, you know how Seinfeld had a soup Nazi? We need a song Nazi. No song for you. 1 year. No song for you.
Yo, end of
Not
line.
for another year.
Overused. Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's time for another ad break here. So let's this one.
I'm David Thompson.
I'm Thomas Carter Rochester, and we're the hosts of Lights, Thunder, Action.
Join us weekly as we discuss the latest news in comic book movies and the film industry at large.
As well as the Trilogy of Trilogies, where we review trilogies you vote for us to talk about in the Tournament of Trilogies.
We go live on our Lights, Thunder, Action Show Facebook page and the HWWS Web TV YouTube channel every weekend.
Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, subscribe on YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts to stay up to date with the Lights, Thunder, Action Show.
And we're back.
How much are they paying you to suck up?
Well, actually, I think the check just got here. So
Willow with that
gallon of
comment.
milk with it. Woo!
Willow with that comment. Your fee just doubles.
I need to know this so that I can, use it for my advantage. I don't know.
That's what she said.
Jerome, I wanted to see if you had an answer for this, because I've been asking my friends, who had the better soundtrack, Beverly Hills Cop 1 or 2?
2.
2?
Ooh.
Yeah, one had some really good hits, but 2, because they were just playing more music. There was actually more music to it. It was more memorable. Okay, now granted,
Fry song,
huh?
The Glenn Fry song, right?
Well, the Glenn Fry stuff, but 2 was just a better film, so hence you remembered more of the music. Now, granted, the Neutron Dance was fabulous in the car chase at the beginning, and that was then I think there was one other Glenn Fry song in the first one. There was only like a couple of songs that people remember, but
He is the one, right?
Yeah. But that was about it. Okay, and then you had 2, which I don't even remember the songs. I just remember the way I felt when I watched it in the music, because there was actually more music in that film than there was in 1. It's hard to explain, but I just felt like 2 was a better experience.
I think they learned with the music in 2 how to do it better than 1, because they brought there were 2 songs that really popped in my head. The first one is the opening song in 2, which is I can't think of the Silver Bullets. What's his name?
Yeah.
He just retired.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Shakedown song. I mean, that really got you going. Thank you, Bob Seger. Thank you, Rose. The Bob Seger song really kicked it up, and then you're seeing all this. He's getting in his car and everything. It really just started that you are watching an action film, and this is going to be a lot better than what 1 did. And they brought the Pointer Sisters back to sing "Be There."
Yeah,
with the car chase scene, and it's just, one of the funniest memorable lines of any movie is just like, "Are you driving this thing, or are you like using the force?" It's just it's Rosewood just banging up everything with a cement truck or something. I just remember he got some kind of vehicle that didn't.
Yeah, you had Seeger, you had the Pointer Sisters there doing "Be There."
Yeah,
George Michael doing "I Want Your Sex."
There you go. So they learned a lot.
Yeah, they did. There was some real good music. Now, I'm not saying that Beverly Hills Cop 1 didn't have good music, but like I said, I think the experience that they learned from the first one just made the second movie better.
Yeah.
And I think nothing against 1. It's just it's really comparing 2 A+ students, but 2 just worked out better. It had Brigitte Nielsen. It had a really tyrannical bad guy, and we had more of a relationship with Rosewood, The other guy, I can't think of his name, and Axel Foley. Taggart. So we had more of a camaraderie because we knew about their past. They had gotten over what happened in 1, and they're working together in 2. And they had a goal because they were trying to get the Alphabet Killer who knocked out their boss, who took down their boss.
Right.
So there was really a nice story going on. And it was going way above, and then the scene where Eddie Murphy, Axel Foley takes over the house and all that. It just, all.
Yeah, but nothing beats a banana up the tailpipe.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm, like I said, there's nothing wrong with 1, but 2 learned a lot of lessons in 1 and made it a lot better. So
yeah,
I do 3 is in a multi-universe.
Yeah, we don't talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody goes, somebody made a 3rd one? Yeah.
There's even talk today of a 4th one.
4th one.
Well,
Eddie Murphy wants to make a 4th one.
Eddie Murphy needs to pay for the children he's had.
Now, well, that's why he's got to make the
4th one.
Alimony and then child support.
Well, he does have Coming to America 2 coming out, which I'm looking forward to, and that movie had a great soundtrack too.
They don't need to make a second one.
Yeah.
Apparently Eddie Murphy is broke, though.
Apparently, when he did that vampire movie, it was all over. I mean, it was just like
just make another Nutty Professor film,
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe he should stay away from movies like Pluto Nash.
I'll admit I like bad films. The worse they are, the better. If I love them, and Pluto Nash was not as bad as people thought. I've seen worse. A lot worse.
It had something going for it. It just had nothing in it to move it.
Yeah.
And
the basic storyline was good. They just couldn't execute it.
That's how future episode. We should do a bad movies episode.
I have one word for you for bad films. Manos.
Oh, I can see that.
You've not seen Manos, Hands of Fate?
Now I will.
The greatest MST3K version done. This is considered by Entertainment Weekly, IMDb, and Variety as the worst film of all time.
Wow,
that's pretty dreadful.
I thought Showgirls was up there.
No, not even close.
Wow.
Hey, Showgirls has a following.
Yes, and so does
right out the theater. So, they walked out.
They just made a documentary about Showgirls, and it just came out a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
we just wanted to see Elizabeth Berkley naked. Everything else was just peripheral.
You're saying that like it's a bad thing, Christian.
I know. That's a 2-minute thing as opposed to a 2-hour nightmare.
Coming from Christian, who's always joking around in the chat room.
Okay, but here's the thing. This is what I've never understood. Okay, we take somebody who was a mediocre actor at best in a teen TV show she played in, and we put her in a movie.
It was an art house film.
What the fuck ever? She was naked. It's not an art house. That is not art house. Like, just because you say art house doesn't mean it's art house. Like,
movies.
You would have to say Basic Instinct was an art house film, and what's the other one? The other I thought or whatever, like art house films. Like, okay, but she was mediocre at best in Saved by the Bell, and then you put her in this like big name movie, and you wonder why you were going to get what you got.
Well, all right. Let's also admit the script sucked too. Okay.
I'm looking at the list of the soundtrack, and I don't recognize any of these songs.
What's this on Showgirls?
Listen to the music. They were just watching her naked. That's all. I have to honestly say I never saw the movie all the way through. I was like, oh my God, kill me now. Kill me now.
It's one of those I actually want to see because of how bad it's supposed to be. Oh no. No, they're talking about a sequel. Let's see here.
I didn't hear what
she asked what the cat's name is.
Sorry, this is Simba.
So
this is my 15-year-old brat.
the gigantic white cat.
So
yeah.
Let me ask this to everyone. Is there a one soundtrack that you would recommend someone to have in their collection?
I would have to go with Flashdance.
Yeah.
Did we lose Christian?
He said he'll be right back.
I guess he's taking a bathroom break.
Yeah, that's what I had to do. I would have to say Footloose. There were a lot of good songs on that album.
Yes, there are.
Willow?
Oh, well, Dirty Dancing has a nice soundtrack. I love that.
Yeah, I agree with that too. That's a great soundtrack all the way through.
So I don't know if Christian heard the question, but one soundtrack you would recommend everyone to have in their collection?
Oh, that movie Beverly Hills Cop 2, definitely.
There you go. And again, what are we noticing here? All 1980s films. Well, no, it's not that. It's the fact that soundtracks were really powerful in the 80s.
In the 90s, they tried very hard to make good movies. But the soundtracks never really stuck.
Yeah.
Although up until they made Save the Last Dance.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a good 90s film. I think it was 90s. Maybe it was early 2000s. Shrek. Shrek has a good soundtrack.
Shrek, yeah.
I think, well, you're also looking at the phases of the music too, because the 80s were loud and proud, because it was the time. I mean, we were colorful. The 90s, now we're going to grunge, Stone Temple Pilots, Pearl Jam, all those guys. So we're kind of coming down from the high. It usually is the odd numbers that go up, 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 up. When you got the 70s, you've got all these musicals coming out, like Hair, like Jesus Christ Superstar. You have all that. And it's, the music's getting powerful. And then the 80s took it even further, and the 90s kind of like, okay, let's tone it down. And somewhere around the millennium, we got Britney Spears.
And 1,000 boy bands that, may or may not have made their mark.
Yeah, they were kind of like the 90s said, New Kids on the Block, Backstreet.
Tell us how you really feel, Christian.
Wow.
Backstreet. All right.
I would just say,
that's a little what they call a Freudian slip there.
Yeah, I wear two of those anywhere I go.
Although some of them have taken a step forward as they came back 20 years later, because Backstreet Boys are better now than they were back then.
Mm-hmm.
However, New Kids on the Block, questionable. Yeah. I mean, I like some of it, but I was the New Kids on the Block fan way back
actor,
then.
Not as a singer, please.
I think you're right. I think the Backstreet Boys held up better than New Kids on the Block for sure.
I mean, vocally, the Backstreet Boys are.
I think they're also putting out better music. Like, it's not a rushed set of music. I think it's thought out songs that have actual lyrics that mean something. And
I have a 7-year-old daughter, so I'm not listening to a lot of popular music at the moment, So I have a lot of kids, a lot younger.
Your sanity is safe right now.
Yeah, I got a lot of music.
Influence her a little bit that way.
A lot of Nickelodeon music is going on at my house right now, and Disney movies.
That's
God,
sick.
I hate Frozen.
Oh,
well, you see, we're focusing on the wrong boy bands. When we're talking about boy bands, I think New Edition, Troop. I think of those guys who are really the makers of, and I don't want to call them boy bands because they're really, in my mind, not. They're not fluff. They were really powerful stuff. Every individual New Edition member, Bobby Brown, Ralph Tresvant, Belle Biv DeVoe. My God, when they went out, they went out.
Yeah.
And they made their own thing. Johnny Gill, my God, that man has a set of pipes at 17, for crying out loud. Those are my boy bands. Those are the guys I listen to, and they set the trend for that. But we were talking about soundtracks and scores, so let's go back to that.
Terry mentioned one to put on your things. I already have that one in my collection, Terry, which is the Highlander soundtrack. A lot of Queen music.
Queen, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And I talked about this before. I would recommend the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 to own that collection of music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. That's a great soundtrack. I liked it better than the music they used in 2.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 2 had good music, but yeah, 1 was a better soundtrack. I mean, just thinking about that soundtrack, it went straight to #1 on the Billboard charts. Not only the album alone, but some of the songs actually recharted higher.
Yeah, than they did originally. But I think that the volume 1 was music that I think everybody kind of knew. Like it kind of like weaved its way into the fabric of our lives a little bit. It just re-energized.
I mean,
volume 2, I don't feel like that was the same because I also felt like volume 2 was not as powerful a movie.
Yeah.
As the first one was.
I was 14 when Pina Colada came out. Okay. So, yeah.
What about when, how old were you when Redbone came out?
Don't know. The song doesn't ring a bell at the moment.
Well, that was the name of the band, the group.
What was the name of the song?
That was the openings when he's singing in the cave and dancing.
Oh yeah. That had to have been the the early 70s. So again, I don't even remember when I heard it first.
I wasn't alive, but I heard it growing up. So
But I love these you were mentioning, Nicole, I love these resurgence of music that kind of just wane out. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 brought back the 80s and the 70s and 80s music. Good Morning Vietnam did the same for the 50s and 60s music, but you also have these subtle movies like Ghost. How many times we heard the Righteous Brothers up that song?
Yeah.
And how many times have they parodied the damn making of the
Hey, I like the trailer for was it Naked Gun? That one I will accept. I will accept that one. That one I accept.
What about the soundtrack for the Whoopi Goldberg movie where she's the nun?
Sister Act?
Sister Act. Yeah.
How do you not where she's the nun?
That was a cute movie.
I mean, that had a good soundtrack as well.
And it has a following like that. Yeah. But I guess
that much. Like, did it have a soundtrack in the past?
This question though, because like for me, growing up in the 90s and in the 80s, I think for me, it's funny because I can't just pick one. It's gonna be Footloose and then probably, which I'm gonna catch a little flack for this, but it's gonna be 10 Things I Hate About You, because I love the movie. It is my all-time favorite movie, but the soundtrack was quintessential at the time that we were listening to it. So like 1996 and 97 was like that music was what was happening. People were looking for a lot of indie stuff and they were finding it with Letters to Cleo and bands like that were not getting a huge airplay on the radio in like top 40 music, but we were looking for stuff that was different. And a little bit more like the 90s were surrounded by a lot of grunge. So we were looking for something that was the opposite of that. So enter like No Doubt and Letters to Cleo and
but then you
bands
had
like that.
Like Hootie and the Blowfish was also like sitting there. And
there was like a bridge, like the slow grungy stuff. And then
I think Christian's point about it is actually best, is that we went from the exuberance and the let's go crazy drug-addled craziness of the 80s, which was snort everything up your nose, to then we sort of came down and reality set in and it got darker, it got grungier, which was what you were just describing, and it sort of cooled down. Were the movies good in the 90s? Yeah, there were some really good movies back then. Was the soundtracks great? Not as great.
Really.
Not as great. Were they as memorable? There were a few that were memorable, but on a whole, they weren't that memorable.
Yeah. Would you say Batman Forever? That was a pretty good, decent soundtrack.
I loved Batman's Forever soundtrack, but
I would say, Jerome.
Different, like.
Yeah. What were you saying?
I was saying that, Jerome, I think the 80s kids got jobs in the 90s, and that's what happened.
Yep, pretty much.
We got out of high school, now we got jobs. Oh,
yeah, I can't stay up till 3 a.m. I got to be up at 6 to be in the office,
And then we got songs from Stone Temple Pilots going, "Where are you going for tomorrow?" I'm just like, I'm staying home.
Bill Collins decided to go to Disney and South Pole for a while.
I'm a horror fan, and speaking of soundtracks, I thought Scream had a pretty decent.
Love that soundtrack.
I don't remember. I mean, I remember the movie. I remember who the villain was, but I don't remember the soundtrack, to be honest.
School's Out for the Summer.
Yeah, but see, I have a different connotation of Alice Cooper singing that instead of. I mean, I actually remember him singing that on the Muppet Show. Okay.
Yes.
Go watch that. You'll never see that song the same way again.
Oh no. Welcome to my nightmare on the Muppet. Every kid in the 80s was going like,
yeah, no.
You know what? The Muppet Show had a lot of great acts, and I can't honestly think of anybody. I can't think of any other song that has hit me harder. And I envision his I'm having a major brain fart. I'm so sorry.
Well, you were saying is it the Muppet Show or the Muppet movie? Because then I would say
the Muppet
someday
movies
we'll find it, the Rainbow Connection, the lover. Yeah, but everybody loves that song, and it's a Paul Williams song.
Yeah. Well, the Muppet Show had dynamite guest stars there to host, and there was songs and stuff going on that were just, what was it? I have the Muppeteer, and the reason they had Alice Cooper on there is because Henson asked his son, "Who did you want to see on the show?" And he said Alice Cooper. So he said it was very surreal the night before the filming to have Alice Cooper at his dinner table eating dinner with him and having a normal adult conversation. He said he was totally disillusioned after that.
Alice Cooper's normal, believe it or not. He plays golf. The guy plays golf.
But I mean, it's like finding out that Ozzy is a homebody.
Yeah. No, Willow, what were you saying? I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Benny and the Jets. I can't think of that song without thinking of his performance on the Muppet Show.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. That has stuck with me.
When I think of music on the Muppets, I don't even think I think of the Muppets themselves. I think of Phenomena.
Yeah.
Oh, we're gonna sing it, aren't we?
They had a really great soundtrack. The first movie they did, the soundtrack was phenomenal.
Are you a man or a Muppet?
No, I'm talking about the 19. Yeah, the 19.
Yeah, way back.
Well, yeah.
The original film.
Yeah. Moving right along, and
moving right along. A bear in his natural habitat.
Yeah.
A Studebaker.
Well, if we're going to the Muppets and we're talking about original soundtracks, I guess I can throw in Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas.
Oh, my wife loves that film.
Might as well throw it in there.
Yeah, that's incredible.
My wife
every song. There's no dud song in that.
Dangerous Minds. That's a great soundtrack.
Yep. Come on, it had Michelle Pfeiffer in it. How could you go wrong?
Yeah, that Coolio video still sticks in my head. That was just a really powerful video.
Paradise.
Is that Gangster Paradise?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't really hold up as well as the parody song of it.
I was wondering when we get to Weird Al. Wow.
The weird thing is that was
almost 2 hours.
And had a really great soundtrack.
Yeah.
Speaking of Weird Al, what about his film UHF?
UHF, that's it.
Oh
Sorry.
my God.
You know what? That film is actually so forgettable. People don't even remember that it existed.
But no, that
Unless
was a
you're a
really
super
great
Weird Al
movie, though.
Yeah. What was that, Willow?
I think it depends on who you're a fan of. Because if you're a fan of him, you know that you're part of the cult following of that movie.
Yeah.
But I think Dangerous Minds, like in general, that music is very quintessential of the time.
Oh yeah.
And so while Gangster's Paradise doesn't necessarily hold up now, it was very much true back then.
Yeah, exactly.
And
it doesn't
so
hold them now because every cop show's played it eventually.
There's a film that's actually older than Dangerous Minds that people totally forget existed. Cuba Gooding Jr. was in it. It's called Gladiator. Takes place, I believe, in Chicago, maybe New York, where it's about underground fights, like boxing fights.
When you say Gladiator, I kept thinking of Russell Crowe.
Yeah. just thinking, I'm thinking, where did Cuban Jr.
Where was he in this film?
I was thinking like he was in Pearl Harbor. That was the only good thing about Pearl Harbor. Maybe he walked on the Gladiator set.
Bro, can somebody look up that movie? I believe it came out in '92. It's called Gladiator.
I believe it.
It was before Boys in the Hood.
But yeah, another one that had a good soundtrack, and I'm not a hip hop rap guy, but Colors from 1988.
Yes, I agree with that. That was a
really great movie too.
Film. Yep.
Friday.
Oh yeah, Friday.
But like
illegal underground boxing, 1992.
Yep, 1992. Yep.
We don't talk about Fight Club.
In that movie, right?
Yeah, I think so. Oh, he's gone.
I think that's who was like the head of the underground fighting was Brian Dennehy, I think.
Probably he always played a bad guy.
Oh wow, James Marshall, who was in Twin Peaks, was also a star in that. Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But like I think a lot of the movies that were made in the 90s played 90s music, and I think that's why a lot of them are forgettable.
Yeah.
And I hate to say that because I'm a 90s I graduated from high school in 98, so I guess in a way I'm a 90s kid.
You're still a 90s kid.
So, I was growing up and listening to music during that time, and when I think about the music that I grew up to and the music that I listened to while I was, working and going to school and all that, I mean, those are the songs that stick.
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat.
Mortal Kombat.
Hey, Mortal Kombat.
Yeah, please pull that up. Yeah, I gotta.
The great song that started the whole thing. But
we talk about Mortal Kombat.
I don't remember the rest of the music in the movie though.
It's so subtly put away. Well, some of the soundtrack didn't make it in the movie. Some of it did, but I just appreciate it because I'm like, okay, we're gonna make Mortal Kombat into a movie. I'm like, oh God, what are you gonna do? I mean, we already tried Street Fighter. What are you gonna do? And I gotta confess, I was blown away. They came up with the idea of making it techno. They stayed somewhat to the core. There was only one or two at that time. There's now 11 or something like that. They kind of stayed to the core principle. They were using some of the special moves that the characters did, and they incorporated it into the movie. I mean, they were making it great, and the techno just kind of helped along with the experience of the fights that you see on the live. So it wasn't a bad movie. I think it was really good for what it was worth.
I'm looking at the list on the soundtrack, right?
Yeah.
One of the artists on there is Tracy Lords.
Yeah, I remember that. Yes.
Wow, I didn't realize
a song. She did a song. I remember that was a big deal when it first came out. But I'm not going to say, do you remember the band name? Who was it? Was it Pearl Jam? Was it Tracy Lords? I don't think you remember the names of the individual artists, but you do remember the songs. And plus, I mean, dun, 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 Mortal Kombat. I mean, they use the sounds from the game to help with the music. And it was just it did feel like you were watching the video game in real time, and that it worked.
So,
it's not one of the greatest movies of all time, but it was.
Let's be honest. Christopher Lambert should never have been in that film.
No, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
He made that movie though.
No, he didn't.
No,
he did for me. He did for me. I was just like, he didn't fit.
That's my point.
He didn't fit, but because he didn't fit, it works. It's one of those. It's like, okay, we're putting a circle in a square peg, but somehow or another, the circle just drops in.
They just had that. They had to hammer.
They had to nail it. Yeah. Now I'm going with the game. He's not even fighting. He's just saying one-liners. My favorite. He has those little funny, quirky moments that coined his rating, and then we say Christopher Lambert, he shouldn't have been rated. Then I saw the next guy, I'm like, uh-oh. Bring Chris back.
Yeah,
a little bit more money.
Funny. The guy that played Raiden in the second Mortal Kombat plays Dexter's dad in the Showtime series.
Oh, he's in a ton of stuff. He is in a ton of stuff.
Well, he was in
the character actor.
Well, he was in the Warriors.
He's in I can't remember his name, but he's in he's one of those what I call the Hugh Laurie actor, which he's done if you look at his IMDb, it goes off the chart, and you've seen him in at least more than one movie, and I can't think of his name, but he's good, but he's not Raiden. It didn't.
Yeah.
It just didn't work,
No.
especially when Christopher Lambert already put the role in progress. It should have. It shouldn't have either gotten a new actor that kind of worked with Christopher, what Christopher did, or bring back Christopher. It just didn't work. And I think in an interview I was watching Christopher, he goes, "Yeah, I didn't like the second movie because it didn't hold well to what the first movie did. The first movie was like a strike of lightning. The second movie was a fire that came from the lightning and burnt the whole place down." So there was just a lot of name dropping. It was just like, oh, by the way, here's 10 other characters we're not going to tell you about. We're going to mention their name in here. I'm just like, okay,
and then
it was a
in the
cluster.
in the opening 10 minutes, they killed Johnny Cage,
Which was the worst thing they could have done. Worst thing they could have done.
There probably was a fine. There was probably a contractual obligation or something.
No, the original Johnny Cage was even there. It was somebody else that was playing Johnny Cage. Yeah.
Try to replace him with a twin brother or something.
Because Lyndon Ashby really owned that role. He made Mortal Kombat work. Everybody did in some form or fashion, but Lyndon Ashby as Johnny Cage really owned that. When they killed him off, it was just basically, well, that's kind of like, killing Han Solo in the first movie of the trilogy. That was a good idea, but hey, that's what you were trying to go for, the effect. But
yeah.
There's a bunch of times when we mentioned movies, soundtracks that either didn't make it into the movie, so songs that are on the soundtrack but didn't make it into the movie, or songs that were in the movie and didn't make it onto the soundtrack.
Yeah, well, I think sometimes that's a marketing thing too, where they know that they can get you by re-releasing the album as an expanded edition or a volume 2 or something.
Or they release 2 versions of the soundtrack, but the second one really sucks.
I'm always
has there been a soundtrack that actually enticed you to go watch the movie?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Because Men in Black did it for me. I think I was just geeking out because it was a remade Patrice Rushen song, "Forget Me Nots," and he took it and he worked it, and it was like, oh, this will work. And they spent money on the graphics that they did. It was awesome.
I got one, and I kind of regret seeing the movie.
This is gonna be good.
But it was the Kevin Kline, Will Smith, Wild Wild West.
Yes,
Yep.
Brian, yep.
All right. So knowing the story behind the Wild Wild West, I enjoyed the movie for what it was. I know it was supposed to be, based on the TV show, and it failed miserably. But for what it was, because I'm a huge steampunk fan, I liked it.
There were just.
I think that's what it really became, is a film for steampunk fans. Nothing really to have to do with the original series.
Yeah.
No, not a single thing with this series. Are there other than the train?
Yeah.
I think. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say. I think who was the girl in that movie? I forgot.
Lopez? No.
Was it Cruz?
Sonya Hayek. Yeah.
Salma Hayek. I think she was a throwaway. I think it should have been just the two of them.
Yes,
working
I agree.
together. I think they should have developed their relationship together, and it started to work out because he's I go into the burning building running first, and then Kevin Kline's the one who looks at the building and says, okay, let's see what goes on over here. And they just worked on those two to work it out and worked on, I think it would be fun, but there were so many cringeworthy moments.
Well,
I wanted to rip my hair out.
Wasn't Salma Hayek the it girl at the time?
Well, she was the it girl, but I just wanted them to develop, and it was just like they threw her in there, and it just kind of threw everything off.
Right.
They should have been working together on their relationship, so that you would have the relationship that the TV series would have, already had established. But it was cool to watch them, and they were just kind of throwing themselves out. The one where they're talking in the spider. The spider scene, the smaller version where he's eating the lizard and they see the spider and they're having the discussion, and he talks about Liberty City and what happened when he saw that. Those were kind of the cool moments. And then you have that cringeworthy moment where West and Loveless are talking about the most unpolitically, that one scene that unpolitically, I'm just like cringing there. And everything came to a full cringe when he goes, Air Gordon. And I wanted to just shoot the plane down myself. And then I'm just looking in there like, oh, there's a spider. What the hell is that?
Look at that time, though. We had a lot.
Sorry, go ahead, Brian.
At that time, though, they had a lot of like older TV shows they were trying to revive and turn them into movies. So you had like Maverick, which had a good soundtrack, and I thought it was a decent movie. Then you had the first Mission Impossible, and of course Wild Wild West came out. I'm trying to think of another.
You also had Starsky and Hutch. 21 Jump was not there yet, so that hadn't come out.
Starsky and Hutch and 21 Jump Street, they came out later.
Right. I'm trying to think what else.
And that came out later too.
Oh, okay.
But at this time, you had Maverick with Mel Gibson and Jodie Foster, and then you had the Wild Wild West that came out, and then the first Mission Impossible film. I'm sure there was another like old TV show that was turned into a movie right around then. But those are the three that stick out. But Maverick had a good soundtrack.
Yeah, but with the Mission Impossible, I mean, they redid the opening music for Mission Impossible, and that was really well done.
Mm-hmm.
The movie wasn't so great, but
the direction of the movie, when the original actors from the original TV series are going, this is crap, we're not even going to be
there. Exactly.
You've done something wrong, and to do that to Phelps.
Yeah, exactly.
Phelps, that was idiot. Exactly. That was stupid.
Yeah.
With that series, they got better once 3. So from 3 on, they just got better.
I know what they were doing. They were trying to give it to a next generation, but I think you can send off the old generation without,
Maybe turn turncoat.
Yeah, exactly. I was just like, why would Phelps ever do that?
That's all that the 90s and 2000s became, was going back to a time where the TV shows were awesome, and they wanted to do like a passing of the torch kind of thing with the new generation. We're still stuck in that with Miami Vice,
because we can't come up with anything creative. We have to decimate the old stuff.
Look at it. They've rebooted Charlie's Angels twice now.
Yes.
And the first one, I like Drew Barrymore and them. I like that first group. I never saw this new one. This was this second one was a complete fail.
Yeah, the second one, the Charlie's Angels that nobody wanted. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. But why are we rebooting this thing? Is because of the second word of show business. Because it's business. Because they think that people. Well, I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying, Willow. Okay, it's just that the suits who have no idea about creativity, because it's been breeded out of them, is that they see that this was successful. So hence we're going to do it again and make more money off of it. That's what it comes down to.
And do a little twist and ruin it.
Right.
One of our past guests, Robert Meyer Burnett, always says it's not show friends, it's show biz.
Exactly. And that's the thing that most people forget, is that even the so-called shows you see on YouTube all cost money to make, and you got to make that money back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I had an argument about this at Comic-Con in New York a few years back. This guy swore to me that I didn't know what I was talking about. But the reality is that if you're not making the money, you're not making the shows or the movies. And why are we remaking these? Is because there's a belief that these things will make money.
Name recognition.
You're on the right track there, Jerome. I wholeheartedly believe you 100%. The problem is you have a fan base. And if you're going to pick up the mantle of a fan base, you better believe that you're going to have a boat full of those people too. You have to appease the new group, but you also have to appease the old group, and that's the hardest part.
Because look at the fiasco that Green Hornet was.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Do you ever feel like Hollywood thrives on the the attitude of the producers, where it's like, we're gonna produce something really bad and get money.
Well, if you ever seen the movie Producers, it's kind of that aspect. As I get the backing, I get myself a big paycheck. Who cares if the movie sucks?
Well, here's the thing, and let me remind everybody who's watching, we are talking about scores and soundtracks, but somebody had to fork over the money for Freddy Got Fingered, which everybody knew that thing was in the toilet, flushed into the toilet, going down the sewer through another toilet. And I do love the comment that Terry McIver says, one of my favorite songs is direct from the movie Time Bandits. Yeah, Dream Away from George Harrison. Awesome song. Beautiful song.
So...
But let me ask you this: is there an artist that has not been featured in a film that you would have liked to have on a soundtrack? Like,
sorry,
I'm thinking because over the years, just about everybody's gotten into at least one song on film.
Yeah.
Either a TV show or a movie. I don't think there's
it really depends and what movie and if there's a match. It's just a general question. Like you know of an artist, do you think there should be somebody generally going into a movie? Because then I would like, okay, well, it depends upon the movie. What gives? I mean, it's just like Celine Dion. I hated her in that song from Titanic, but she came back for Deadpool and loved it. That was an awesome song, and not only that, she calls Deadpool Spider-Man at the end of the video. I praised her, so I forgave Titanic for that song. It was a cool song.
I was like one of the artists. I'm not counting The Wiz because he was in it, but Michael Jackson didn't have a song until like '93 when he did the song for Free Willy.
Right.
No, he did this song for Ben.
Yes, he did.
He did a song for Ben
the original Ben back in the 70s.
Yeah, I remember that song, and I mean, it wasn't his. It was his Jackson 5 time, but
the song was in the movie.
Yes,
Ben. Yes, they played in the movie.
And I don't think it was. I think it was because he was in the movie that they actually let him sing it.
Because I cried my eyes out too.
I thought it was the theme. It was a theme song.
The song just tore me to bits, and it still does to this day. But
the movie tore me to bits.
I mean, it did. But there's also songs where the character sang, and the song never made it on the soundtrack. So, like, the whole stair sequence in 10 Things I Hate About You with Heath Ledger. Like, I'm sorry, but Heath Ledger actually has a voice, and he could sing. And that whole thing, Can't Take My Eyes Off of You, never made it onto the soundtrack. And I was like, that would have been the best part of it.
Well, there's lots of songs that don't make soundtracks. I mean, that you're like, why is this not on the soundtrack? And one of them is as a Star Trek fan, if you go back and look at the first J.J. Abrams stuff, where the hell is the Beastie Boys song in any of the soundtracks of any of the three films? Because they used the same song in the first J.J. verse movie that they used in the third one.
Right. Sabotage.
Okay. Yeah. Sabotage. Where is that on the soundtracks? Not there at all. When they're going into the bar in the first Star Trek J.J. verse film, the music there is not on the soundtrack, and that was what I was looking for.
I would also think as well is, have you seen a trailer to a movie but didn't see those scenes from the trailer make it into the movie?
Oh yeah,
it's the same thing with the songs, and it's the same thing. I think it would happen with the songs. It's just like when they go to the cutting room floor, that song just unfortunately made its way to it, or they just didn't need it.
Yeah.
Another artist I was thinking, I think he might have had one song, was Garth Brooks.
Hope Floats.
I think that was the only film.
Garth Brooks, I'm pretty sure Garth Brooks' music made it into...
Hang on a second. I thought he'd done a lot of stuff because he was really big in the 90s.
And I'm not talking about his movie that didn't happen.
We don't talk about the Australian country singer now, Chris Gaines or whatever that thing was they did for... What?
He had one song, but like it was towards the end of his run.
I'm looking to see if I can find anything.
I don't remember. I know he was heavily in Hope Floats, but I don't.
His wife It has
Well, Trisha Yearwood, yeah.
Con Air.
Was it? Yeah, music in Con Air.
I don't think
it was
he
the
has,
credit
but
song.
his wife.
It was the credit song.
Sang the title song.
Trisha Yearwood sang the credit song, the end credit song.
Okay.
I think I was too busy watching Nick Cage go completely nuts to worry about music in the background.
No, I love the irony is that they're singing a song by a band that died in a plane crash.
Oh, yeah.
I love that movie. I really do. That's my guilty pleasure movie. Like, I could watch it. If it's on TV, I will watch that movie.
That's a fun movie.
If there was a soundtrack to The Wicker Man, it was overdrawn by the bees. It was killed. So I'm sure there was, and I wasn't paying attention the whole time.
I love Conner.
Well, before we sign off here, I think I'm going to do one more ad just because I love this bunch of group.
This bunch of group?
Yeah.
This bunch of group.
This bunch of group.
Bunch of
group.
I'm going to do this one just because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be here.
Exactly.
You have more options than ever before when choosing a film, a television or internet series, a book to curl up with, or even a radio show or podcast. Get to know the people who are creating for you. The Hangin' With Web Show, hosted by award-winning author and journalist G.W. Pomacher, is the internet's fastest-growing web talk show series. The Hangin' With Web Show features professional, yet casual, in-depth interviews with creative arts and entertainment pros. Meet the people behind a digital revolution in creating more quality content than ever before in the history of media. Find the Hangin' With Web Show on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter, or simply go to www.hanginwithshow.com. That's www.hanginwithshow.com.
Much love to Garrett and Sage and all them. They, for the last 5 years, have been really hitting the pavement.
If we're going this far, might as well get out the power strip. Here come the plugs. So, for those of you who are loving what you see here and all the group here, please, we're all part of the HWWS family on the YouTube channel. Just simply go to YouTube, type in HWWS Media. You'll see all of us: Saturday morning cartoons, Pillow Talk, Reels and Heels, and of course, Hanging With Web Show.
And some sort of TARDIS show.
Yeah, some sort of TARDIS show. Some sort of TARDIS show. So
I was the guest on Hanging With for.
I don't know. You're like a
three-time guest, I guess. I was on it 3 times, so. And it always got cut off because Sage is like, "There's time to go."
Did you ever? I had to. You saw the videos. I worked with Garrett for a little bit before we got this gig, because he literally kicked me off the Hanging With and said, "It's time for you to get your own podcast." I'm like, okay, we'll do it. But I was working with him, and yeah, it's funny to watch Sage and Adina when we're sitting there and interviewing the guest off to the side over here, and Sage brings out okay, we're done, and he's still talking. I'm just like, do you want me to throw something at him? I got the TARDIS right here, boom.
So, is there anything you got coming up that you want to plug, Basil?
Yes. Is it in the private chat? Yes. I'm just going to throw this, if you don't mind. It's in the private chat if you want to move it to the regular comments. This coming Thursday, and I'm still working out the logistics of it. I don't know if we're recording Tuesday, so sorry about that. But my team will be recording. My friends Melanie, Dave, and Mackenzie are going to be on the Squee Show. I think this is tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. And there's a posting on the Traveling TARDIS page. And I got invited to do something for Fan Expo in tribute for the Halloween Horror Nights at Universal Studios, which was canceled, unfortunately, due to the Thiggy. But apparently they like the pictures of the traveling TARDIS at Halloween Horror Nights. So the special guest will be my little blue box for the very first time instead of me. And talking about the little blue box at Halloween Horror Nights, and there's some pictures out there, but If you can take the link, I don't know if I can. No, I can't post it there. Brian, if you can take the link out of the private chat and put it in the comments. This link is where you can sign up for free to watch the event. It's going to be 2 hours starting 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it is sponsored by Fan Expo in tribute for Halloween Horror. Thank you. In tribute for Halloween Horror Nights. So that is happening. And plus we go to facebook.com, The Traveling TARDIS. We are climbing. Where are we now? Yep. Garrett, I used to tell Garrett I don't want to flaunt this because I don't want to be a jerk. And he goes, no, flaunt the number. And I'm like, okay. So we are currently, as far as Facebook subscribers, 37,746.
Wow.
That's how many people like that little blue box in our podcast. I don't know why.
I've heard that the little blue box is a great host. So.
Yes. I just let him sit there for an hour with the record button on and see if people want to chat with it. If he responds, that's a great thing.
I don't even know how many we are.
So, Rose and Jerome, what you guys got coming up next Saturday?
It's your show, so it'll be a mystery till probably Monday.
No. We may not even know until like 10 minutes before the show sometimes.
Yeah.
So
it's
Mark's show, and Mark likes to play fast and loose, and that's what makes the joy of that show is that we got to think fast, we got to remember fast. We talk about it, we enjoy it, we have a good time. This morning we had Rose's daughter Rachel as one of our early co-hosts, and she did a bang up job. When Garrett throws it on the webpage, I recommend people go and see it. It was about video games that were turned into Saturday morning cartoons. So,
yeah, it was a lot of fun. She really enjoyed being on there.
Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. You guys dissed the first Pac-Man? I like the first Pac-Man. The first Pac-Man.
We diss a lot of shows from our childhood, okay?
I really enjoyed the episode where you guys were talking about the Jetsons. That was...
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We talk about the Jetsons a lot. That and Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, that comes up quite often. Yeah, we did a show. I think that was my last show before the break was the Jetsons, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
But we got a whole mess of them. I'm still trying to bug Mark to get us some of our really early shows that were really embarrassing.
Our early shows are never going to see the light of day. It's a good thing,
The whole thing of Conan O'Brien saying this will never air. I like using that one.
But you can catch a lot of our better old episodes on HWWS on YouTube, and we're on almost every Saturday starting at 9.
Yeah.
Eastern Standard Time.
Can I just say how awesome it is to have Mark back?
Yes. Yeah. We can definitely say that.
Yep.
Yeah. What about you, Willow? Do you have any Pillow Talk episodes coming up?
No.
Didn't even miss a beat on that.
Join me on my show on whenever I decide to do another episode, and just be random as always.
Willow, do you need me to send you a pillow?
You know what? I messaged so many people, and it's like, I would love to join you on your show, and then it's like, okay, let's talk about when, and then I get nothing.
Just call me.
I want to
let me know, Willow. Willow, let me know. I'll see what I can do.
I wanted to be professional and diplomatic. I like Willow's approach. When's your next episode? When am I having one? Whenever I damn feel like it.
She's just gonna hit the like button one day. Be like, hi guys.
I promise I will get my crap together and actually plan a good show. But for some reason, planning just never seems to work out for me. So I just
Well, let me plug the 3 important shows that you've done, which was mental health, the whole LGBTQ one, and then body positivity. 3 important issues in life. And that's what makes your show so great is that you take real life issues and, we throw jokes and humor in there, but you're still getting out a good message. So,
but I think that's what makes it fun and relatable is the fact that if we didn't laugh, we would cry. I think so many of those things are hard sell things to talk about with people where you're not breaking down, thinking about how terrible it is, but also, if you can laugh about it, that means that you're growing from it.
Yeah. Well, I'm not normal at all. I never had a normal upbringing. I don't have a normal childhood. So, whenever I see people like saying, "Oh yeah, I came from a normal family," I'm like, "Oh my god, you scare me." But so I like to try to make jokes about how like my upbringing and my family, because that's it. I have to find humor in how I essentially was born and brought up, because I just don't want to focus on the negativity all the time.
Well, and I think when we grow from something, I think that's why your show is important, is that you have people on there that talk about where they have been and where they are now. And that journey from where we think we've, been rock bottom to where we've managed to be a whole lot better off. And I think that deserves to be spotlit. It needs to be something that is out there where people are like, okay, if they can do it, then, and they're regular average quotation marks, normal people, that I can too. And I think I can get through that. So listening to people tell their stories, I think is important. And that's what brings us all together.
Yeah. So you want to cover what we got going on the next few weeks here?
So the next few weeks is a smattering of, I think we were all drunk when we came up with this list. Actually, we were drunk when we came up with this list.
Yep.
So yeah. So we decided that
drunk. I was completely sober.
Yeah, you were sober.
Is that the episode called it? We came up with this episode by drunkenness.
She was the reason we actually have a list.
Oh,
okay. Okay.
So today we're doing soundtracks. Next weekend, next Saturday, is our movie scores, which will all be instrumental, beautiful composed music. And October 3rd, we're doing our famous Canines episode, and I'm sure Dingo will make his presence known, like right now. And then the 10th, October 10th, is Cruiserweights. We're going to dedicate our show to our Cruiserweights division in wrestling. And our 17th will be our salute to indie artists.
So if you're an indie artist or a writer,
reach out to us. We would love to have you on so you could talk about your
whatever it is, book, comic,
your
art.
Creative endeavor. How about that?
You should get a certain author named Rose on there.
No need to answer now. Just
Garrett, I appreciate that so much.
Garrett, what she's using
Wait
is
a minute, Garrett, you were.
Oh, that's what it looks like.
Garrett, you weren't here for the opening when we were discussing about Willow. She said, this is not really Willow. She's a recording and we played it. So we're all synced up to her discussion, but this is an old VHS tape she's running right now. So that's what you're seeing right now, Garrett.
I missed that one.
I swear to God, I should do that, is record a video of me doing what David Tennant did in that
Blink.
one episode.
Yeah.
Blink, yeah. Yeah, just give us.
There's our
script. Yeah.
And then wrestling factions, and then Halloween will definitely round out our October. And we are working on having some fun psychics on and enjoy that spooky day.
I actually do have
probably the only way we can.
Jessica's coming on.
Yay!
And then on November 7th, because that's as far as we got, is family movies.
Oh, okay.
And I think that's going to be our... What?
You have a good lineup.
And I think November will be our family will be our theme. I think that there'll be a dysfunctional family movie on there too, because those are the ones that really matter anyways.
I'll just hold a mirror up to my family.
Mine too.
But today was fun. I mean, movie soundtracks have always been a part of my life. I mean, music.
Oh, that was the topic? Damn.
And now,
Sorry,
for
I
your
lost
pleasure, Christian is going to do his dance.
I have a dance.
It's
Okay, here we go.
Never stay on top.
Wow,
Nice.
What
There you go.
wow, what moves?
I do have to say though, next week Garrett's joining us for scores.
Oh,
Oh, geez, I
well,
gotta be
that'll be an 8-hour show because we never shut up.
does this mean I gotta be on my best behavior? The boss is showing up.
Uh-oh.
He's
I
not
don't
on
even
his
think
best
the boss
behavior.
will be on his
Okay,
best behavior.
hold up. Wait a second. How many times did I drop the F-bomb today?
I wasn't paying attention.
Show ain't over yet. Give me
I'm
a
telling
sec.
you, it's always the ones that's supposed to be straight-laced, you know, like I'm supposed to be all buttoned up and like professional. No,
Yeah.
you caught me on the weekend. I'm not in the classroom. You don't know what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
Teacher, I watched your show on Saturday and I learned a new word. Can I say it again?
That wasn't me. Wasn't me.
That wasn't you.
Until next weekend, you guys stay safe.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks for
forget-
watching.
And